today's episode is brought to you by 5 and 7 Tactical Solutions. They are a company in Hawaii that is one of our good friends. And I'll just read a little bit from them. They are the premier team for tactical training and protection. They're the place that I went to get firearms training. And for people that are passionate about protecting yourself or your family, go to 5 and 7 Tactical Solutions LLC.com. And they'll give you everything from handguns to long gun training. If you're a law enforcement officer and you need to get recertified, they have all that as well. Maybe you don't have the passion for weapons or firearms. They do have self-defense classes as well for people that want to just learn how to defend yourself or your family in a situation that may require that. Brother David Padilla is the founder of 5 and 7 Tactical Solutions. And I want to encourage you to go to their website, 5 and 7 Tactical Solutions LLC.com. Check out the services that they have to offer. If that's something that interests you, in the contact form, be sure to mention GLO 808, and they'll give you $25 off of any training services or any training packages that they have to offer. So, all right, family, we are, man, I'm excited. I'm really happy and excited. I have an old time friend that I had never met organically, but I've met her through social media. And throughout the years, we met, I want to say about 9 years ago, through a live streaming platform. Some of you may have heard of it. It's called Periscope, which migrated into Twitter, now called X. And through the seasons of life, we've kind of had some very unique chapters that we both written for ourselves and our family. I'm going to read just a little bit. There's so much layers to this person. And her name is Irina Djordjic. I think I said it right. She is an accomplished broadcasting professional with a background in television journalism, digital communications and marketing, branding, fundraising, and program development. She is a champion of social justice, equity, and inclusion with extensive experience in storytelling and community building. I'll use that part and we'll talk about the rest. There's a whole, man, there's so many chapters we can talk about. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to just get ready. Grab a pen and paper. We want to take some notes. We may learn something today. Maybe we'll learn some language, some culture issues, and things we just talk about. But I'm excited to have with us here today a very good friend of ours. She's a Serbian journalist, Irina Djordjic.
Woke up every day like this. It's a brand new day. Hey. Wake up every morning and say it's a brand new day. Hey. Take a good day, make it great, okay? 'Cause if you got some lemons, make some lemonade. Yeah, chase those clouds away. It's a brand new day.
Look at you with that that fancy red suit.
Can you see that I have actually the same shirt that is
Oh, you
on
do?
the photo? You didn't realize. Wow. Thank you for inviting me.
Irina
Thank you.
Djordjic. Is that right?
Yes, you did it.
Hey, I know we talked early, but congratulations, by the way, on your family, and just raising a family. I meant to tell you that earlier, and we didn't get a chance to have that discussion. So congratulations on
Thank you so much.
raising a family.
It is a journey. Yeah. We should all congratulate ourselves and
Yeah.
give ourselves some more credits.
Yeah. Now, you are on the west coast of Canada. Was that correct? The west coast?
Yeah, I'm in Vancouver.
Vancouver.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. When I hear locals here and they say Vancouver, I always feel like, oh, I'm such an immigrant. I say Vancouver.
Are there a lot of Serbians in Vancouver?
A lot of people from ex-Yugoslavia, a lot of people from Bosnia, Croatia, Serbia. So I would not say probably, I don't know how many even, because that's the other problem, because there's no statistics on how many people exactly we have. I had this conversation with our ambassador recently, ambassador of Serbia in Canada, and we were talking about that issue of not knowing how many people we have here. Some approximates say that there could be 10 times more people than we think, but because there are no official statistics, we cannot know. But a lot of people here.
So what makes a Serbian, ethnicity wise? So how can I tell the difference from Croatian to Serbian? How would I know someone from the outside?
You would not know. Like, you would definitely not know. We would know because it really depends. Like, it's like you are born in this region or that region, and your roots are from here or there. But it's pretty mixed up. And in ex-Yugoslavia, when that was one country, like, people, of course, were mixing up. So a lot of marriages happened between Bosnian people and people from Serbia and people from Croatia. So, like, like, all differences actually started happening. Like, all distinctions started happening after the wars we had in the 90s.
So how can you tell? How do you?
Well, I can usually tell by the language, because we use different dialects, and there are even different dialects in Serbia. It's basically like it's the same in every country. Like, you recognize your people by dialect, or I would ask, oh, where are your parents from, or your grandparents? Like, it's pretty much same here. Like, you would ask people, what is your nation, or what tribe you come from, what is your for your people.
So I'm Hawaiian, Chinese, and Filipino, and so I noticed in Hawaii we don't use the word Asian, because we know if I am in a room with a bunch of Asians, right, I can look in a room, and I'm not bragging, but I will say I can kind of tell within a few seconds or a few minutes who the Chinese are, who the Koreans are, and who the Japanese are. I can just...
That's the thing. You would know.
Yeah.
And yes, I would know the difference between people from Serbia, Bosnia, or Croatia, or Macedonia, or Montenegro. Like, yeah, of course, physiognomy, and like maybe different style of even wearing a clothes, or some really, really small details that would definitely not tell anything to you.
Yeah.
Like, you would not know the difference.
Even with Hawaiians and Tongans and Samoans, and we joke about it, but some of them are unfair. They're unfair, but they're true. Tongans are typically very strong. We're all strong, but Tongans are not typically, to all of my Hawaiians and my Samoans, I'm just calling it as it is. Tongans in general are not heavy set. They can be, but just as a whole, they're not, compared to Hawaiians, and that's of course social and cultural issues as well. But typically Tongans, sports wise, they like playing rugby. Samoans are football.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there is intermix, of course, but just generally speaking, so we can tell. The tricky,
the same.
Yeah. The thing with Hawaiians, I think a lot of them will have thicker legs overall, especially in the calves. Yeah, my wife is laughing.
Why is that?
I don't know. I don't know. I think just a lot of Hawaiians, their feet looks like this. Yeah, not like this. So a lot of, if you're
Really?
tribal people, their feet tend to be more spread open.
Because you would think that probably could be. I don't know. Like, actually, I don't know anything about history of Hawaii, and I was just there in May, and I was lucky to, catch a glimpse of a tour and hear some local stories. And you would think, oh, people, like, surfing was invented there, right? But you would think, oh, people swim a lot, but I don't think that was actually what was like happening through the time there. Like, it was not big part of the culture, or it was. So if it was, you would think people would be very wide in shoulders, and like the build would be just different. You would not think the feet would look.
I think we could take a time capsule and go back in time. The physique of more native Hawaiians or even any indigenous culture would be much different than today.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's no need for people to be in the water to hunt or fish, because we can go to Walmart, we can go to Costco.
Oh no, I'm talking about times before Walmart and Costco.
Oh yeah. So a lot of people don't know that Native Hawaiians, if you look in our history, like with King Kamehameha, he was not a small man. He was actually a very big man.
The whole family was. I mean,
yeah. And you got a chance to go on the island. Did you go to the lookout, the Nu'uanu Pali lookout?
No, where? Oh, maybe I did, but I don't know the name. What is that?
It's the one when you go on a mountain and you go to this overlook and you can see the entire ocean, and it's very windy there.
I did went to the old volcano. Are you talking about that?
The Diamond Head, is that where you went?
Yeah, Diamond Head. Yes.
Okay. So from Diamond Head, you can look back onto the mountains and you'll
Okay,
see
yeah.
what we call them the Ko'olaus. And that's kind of where, that's where the final, we call it the final battle, the battle of the Pali or Nu'uanu Pali. That's where King Kamehameha,
Oh,
there's a whole other history to that. And when it comes to First Nations and Native Hawaiian culture, as we get older, we look at it through a different lens, because when I was in school, Native Hawaiian was taught to us in a classroom setting, right? I didn't have my grandparents teach me like how I was taught in school, so it's a different history.
they didn't talk native language.
So, okay, we're going to go there now. Okay, there we go. So
Okay, we don't have to. We can.
no,
we can
that's
say it
good.
from-
No, that's good, because one of the documentaries you covered, I don't. What is the guy's name? You interviewed him quite a bit. He spoke English in that documentary. Can't remember his name because I couldn't find his name.
Matthew
Matthew, yeah. He talked a lot about things that hit me heavy in the heart, because my grandparents were not allowed to speak Native Hawaiian, because when they went to school, they would get punished. They had to speak English and they had to write in English. And when they went home, they would get punished for speaking English. So it was a very tough time for our grandparents, great grandparents. And so that's part of the reason why I didn't get taught that, because it was already ingrained that you have to assimilate to Western culture. And so here we are in 2024. My wife and I are very passionate now to get that language. My wife she understands a lot. We don't speak it yet. I am learning, and I'm actually, my wife can speak, but we're slowly getting back into that, because we want to teach our kids to carry that, that language. So yeah, we weren't taught that. I
But
heard
you were
it.
not. You would learn the language in school.
So I had it in elementary school. In high school, it would be considered an elective and not a requirement. So
That's much more than what people have in Canada, because like they can learn their native languages in their communities, not in schools.
So how many First Nations are in your area that you know of, that you?
That I know of, maybe 15 in the area where I am, but I believe British Columbia has, definitely British Columbia has the most First Nations than other provinces. I cannot remember, is it the number 286, 84 for the whole Canada or just for British Columbia? I'm not sure. I forgot that number because it was like a few years ago when I looked back at the statistics, but it's a lot. And I cannot remember what is the number for British Columbia, but definitely we have the most, like more than other provinces.
So for people that are listening today or watching, one of the documentaries that Irina put out, and really good, by the way. Are you a one-man band, or do you have a team that does your videos?
No, one-man show. I do everything.
Bro, you're really good. The video intros. I like how you do your I call it just your vocal introductions, or you talk and then you do your video after that. I love that.
Thank you so much. So it was a lot of work. Like,
I know,
just for that one video, I needed 3 weeks, and I filmed like my parts. I filmed maybe in a day, but it took me 3 weeks actually to do the research and to actually find materials, video materials, because I didn't have anything. I just couldn't film. Like there's nothing to film, right? For that story, specific story. So I had to use materials, archive materials from CBC and some like documentaries and other programs. So yeah, but I do everything myself.
You're
Thank you.
very good at it, I will say, because it takes me 3 weeks just to do a video intro, you know. But so family, there's a documentary she did on First, and I'm very generalizing. We can get into detail, but basically First Nations and the effects of First Nations when another country or another people come in and
Yes,
eradicate. Yeah.
so I did actually three. Was it three or two? I'm not sure. Let's go back. So what happened was when I moved to Canada, I'm very curious, and I'm a journalist, and it's in my nature to ask questions and to find stories. So I knew about residential schools and that colonial history of Canada even before Kamloops happened. So you don't know what Kamloops is and what I'm referring to, but I will give you more details. So I knew about residential history schools and the colonial history of Canada even before Kamloops happened, and it was my plan to make 1, 2, or 3 stories about that when I have time, when time comes for that. But I was not ready. I had just maybe 1 or 2 interviews filmed at a time when Kamloops happened. So Kamloops is a small city in British Columbia, and in 2020, I believe, one mass grave was discovered in Kamloops. So the number of the graves they discovered, so it's not open yet. They've done the sonar research of the grounds and found 215 bodies. Approximate number is 215 bodies in that mass grave, and those were kids from the residential school. So that just exploded, that discovery, and that changed everything, because before that you couldn't hear many stories in public about residential schools or the survivors. Yes, everything happened before that. Like Canada had these trials with residential school survivors, and people got some settlements for that, but it was not big in media, and people would not talk about that. That was not mainstream topic that people would talk about. But when Kamloops happened, that exploded, and like every media, everybody were covering that. And I was thinking, okay, so this is the moment I have to make this story. I had one interview filmed. I know the story. I know the background. Let's do it now. Well, people need to hear this. And then I went down the rabbit hole and realized, oh, I don't know anything. I know probably what people who grow up here would know, because they also didn't know anything. After that, I spoke with many people who were born and raised here, First Nations or settlers, like, and they didn't know much. And I was researching, and it took me 3 weeks actually of research to be able to say, okay, now this story is complete. And it was super, super emotional. It was exhausting. So I think it took me maybe 2 months to emotionally recover after wrapping up that story. And after that, I also made another one about decolonization. That's the interview with Matt Dick that you saw. So what was your question? Sorry,
There is no question. We're just talking. There's a part in that video where I felt that it was very emotionally heavy and taxing, at least for me. And I was just thinking, I don't know how she's going to finish this clip. And then I saw your eyes, and I could tell. Yeah, I saw your eyes getting a little bit watery. And I said, okay, this is So for people that don't know, it was 215 children they found in the mass grave?
In that one.
That one.
Yeah, so several other happened after that first one. And I've learned actually after that discovery that like people from local communities would do different researches in the last 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, but nothing ever came up. At least nothing in public. So this was first public story that everybody would know about. So I don't know if there is a reason for that, but I've heard a lot of stories like why this didn't happen before. They knew it, like it was nothing new. Like it was not a discovery that would surprise people who were involved or familiar with what happened in residential schools. But this one was the first that actually got some numbers. The first one that went public. The first one that everybody talked about. And after that, many other stories, many podcasts were made. Like people done a lot of researches on what happened in different residential schools, and yeah.
So these residential schools, were all of them religious, or was it government run, or both?
Both. So I don't know, was it the same in US? In US, the system was called industrial schools.
Industrial, yeah.
So basically, from my understanding, the creators of residential schools in Canada were inspired by industrial schools in US. And they were run by churches, United Church, Catholic Church. Oh my God, I even forgot how many. I think 3 or 4 churches were involved, like the biggest ones. But they were funded by government. So they would get money from the government to run the schools. Kids would live there, like they would not go home. And the practice was to relocate children from their communities, so they would go to like very far residential school so they cannot run away and go back home. Or some of the kids would never go home, some of them would go home over summer. It really depends. So rules were different for every school, I guess.
I'm going to read a quote out of your documentary, and it says, "In order to educate the children properly, we must separate them from their families. We must civilize them." And that's kind of a short version. And that was from one of the government officials during that time.
He was the one who was kind of creator of the program.
This is stuff.
Yes, the idea was to educate indigenous children to different ways of living, I would say, right? Like,
we have 4 kids. My oldest daughter, she went to public school and private school. I went to public and private. The other 3, they all went to public, or they went to preschools. But then we decided to homeschool them. That's the best decision we ever made. It's not easy, but for me, one of the reasons, outside of political reasons in Hawaii is a very strong political state. People don't realize that because it's so peaceful. It's Hawaii, but no, there's a lot of things in the background that people don't even realize. So outside of that, I would come home from work. My daughter would have to do schoolwork, chores, play outside, do whatever. If she had any extracurricular activities, she would do that. By the time we had dinner and actually had a chance to sit down and spend time with my daughter, I only had 30 minutes to an hour a day to raise my own daughter. And every other hour of the day outside of her sleeping was in school. And for me, my personal conviction is, what do I expect, if my kids act a certain way? If 8 to 10 hours of their life is being spent with other people to teach them about life. And so that was one of our first convictions. Like, there are children, let's teach them. And they have the rest of their life to go do whatever it is they want to do. But while they're under our care, we're going to make sure we teach them as much as possible. Our kids are, I'm going to brag now, our kids are smarter than most kids. There's no grade levels. There's no ceiling. My youngest daughter, she wrote her first computer program at 10. Was it 10 years old, honey?
Oh, wow.
At 10. We don't force them. If they want to learn, you go ahead and you go learn. And so that's that decision. And the reason why I say that, when I watch a documentary, let's pretend that none of those evil things happened to those kids. And let's just pretend that was a good school overall, 100%. What broke my heart Irina, when I watched that video, is that these kids are going to bed every night, and there's no mommy and daddy there with them. That broke my heart to see that.
It's not just that. It's like they were abused
Yeah.
in every possible way you can imagine. So, yeah, not having their family around would be like a holiday for them if they were not abused. Like, if they would have that right, like it's very, very hard even to think about that, like what those kids, and you know what was the outcome of their education for living in that system that settlers brought. It was they would educate them to run a household or to work as manual labor. That's it. They didn't get more education than that. So they were not set up for, I would not even say success in that society. They would set up to live one very traumatized life.
Is there any turnaround for that? Do you see anything good coming out now that you're talking about these things? Is there any movement in that area to help these people?
Well, I can see a lot of initiatives, a lot of, but I don't think like what I find painful the most in the society in US and or Canada is like everybody are talking about equity, diversity and inclusion. Like it almost, became tokenized. It's must have, like everybody have to include these policies or procedures or, to educate employees or about, let's say, colonization or like how do we, decolonize things or how we include everybody in the society. But I would say it's still more performative than genuine. I think that a lot of people still don't really understand why that is important and how we can do it. And it is really on us. Everybody have to do their part. So we cannot expect, from the government to do any projects or programs to make equity accessible actually to everyone. And, you cannot just open up institutions. You cannot just open up schools. You can do that, but it doesn't come overnight. I think there will be probably a few generations needed to at least bring the society to the level of understanding that, okay, so this is like we are trying to be equal now and we will build from here. It's not going to happen very soon, I'm afraid.
I'm glad you brought that word generational, because that's what I was going to slide in there is that there is no government program or initiatives. I mean, they're a Band-Aid. That's how I see it.
Yeah, everything is just Band-Aid.
Well,
there is some funding, and there are a lot of nonprofits working on different projects. But if you saw that video where my friend Matthew spoke about funding and programming for indigenous peoples, what really resonated with me was when he said, as somebody who is running programs, so that was his job at the time, for indigenous youth. For me, it's very easy to get funding for problematic indigenous youth. How to educate indigenous youth not to get pregnant in their teenage years. Like, it's very, very non-inclusive. There's still a lot of discrimination happening. It's still hard to get money for, let's say, good programming. There are a lot of issues with suicide in local communities on the East Coast, and those initiatives are underfunded, and those people are not getting help. A lot of problems with the reserves, with that they don't have like clean water for daily use. Like, I don't think the government is doing enough. Maybe they do. Maybe like there's something we cannot see in the big picture, but what I can see from daily life. And also there is this narrative, if you listen the conversations to people who are grown up here, or new immigrants, or people who don't have a lot of connections with indigenous people and their ways of like modern living, not their ways, not their traditional ways, but their ways of modern living. Like, you would hear stories like, oh, they're getting so much money from taxes, like they don't pay taxes, they have education for free, they get cars for free or gas for free. It's nothing like that. That's not true, and that's still what a lot of people think. So it's very hard, I would say, because I do have some very close friends of mine who are from different nations, and they know like how they still struggle to educate themselves, to get scholarships, to just survive in the society. Everybody struggle, not just them, but
Yeah.
Having to live with that intergenerational trauma is it just adds up. And when I learned about intergenerational trauma here, I actually got completely new vision of the society where I came from, because we also living intergenerational trauma in Balkans. Like, we had so many wars, so many one form of colonization happened there as well, with Turkey, Ottoman Empire at the time, and a lot of history there. But yeah, we'll live the same story there in a different form. But it
I
was
think
easier.
the relation between us and a lot of the people in Canada, the First Nations, typically Native Hawaiians and a lot of First Nations people, I won't say all, I can't speak for all of them, but we didn't believe in ownership of land, right? So
Yeah,
we believe in the stewardship of it. So when Westerners come in there and tell us, hey, I own this, it was like, what? You can't own land. You can't take it with you. That's one of the things. The other thing is we had no competitive structure to compete with. So even with all these programs that they have, even for Native Hawaiians and First Nations, it's still a generational thing that we have to make that adjustment if we want to compete in a Western society, right? So it's like you said, it's going to take generations if that's what our people want to do. I will say my parents, my grandparents actually, or great grandparents, they broke that cycle. They became landowners outside of the government's help. So in Hawaii, they have something what they call Hawaiian homelands, which is basically the government gives you land, but you don't own it. You get to have it for 100 years. And then after 100 years, it goes back to the government. So you never,
then what?
then that's it. That it's basically a 100-year lease. And you can own the house. So if you ever want to leave, you have to take the house with you. So, or you sell it to some. So you never truly have. And
You just sign a new agreement for another 100 years?
No, that's it. I think that's it. Once you qualify, and I might be wrong. Somebody can fact check on that. But the way the Hawaiian homelands was designed was, this is my opinion, is to appease the Native Hawaiians so they don't revolt. Say, hey, we're going to give you land. This is what you have. Okay. The problem I see with that is Native Hawaiians in general. I'm not speaking for all of my people, but if the government gives them something, yeah, we'll take it. In the meantime, all the other land in Kailua, in Kaneohe, all the beautiful property, guess who gets to buy it? Not us, because we're happy with our little plot of land that we have. And so that generational...
So who owns homes and land and properties in Hawaii?
The majority is outsiders. It's not... so there's about 450,000 Native Hawaiians left on this planet. And the majority of them don't even live in Hawaii. So the majority of... I don't know the percentages of land ownership in Hawaii in terms of people, but I do know that the largest landowner in Hawaii is what they call the Bishop Estate. I had it written down somewhere, but they own the most land. There's 5 families that own the land in Hawaii, or 5 businesses. So they pretty much run. And then the state of Hawaii, of course, owns all of the land. So... but yeah,
so sad.
yeah.
Well, I don't know any indigenous people here, I'm trying to think now, that own their own land. Land on the res here isn't owned by native residents. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
true.
true. Yeah, yeah.
It's an appeasement, basically, to keep certain people subdued to where they don't have to compete. Like my wife, for years, we would argue about we should get Hawaiian homelands, and I'm like, I don't want it because my parents bought land. They bought property. My great grandparents bought property on their own. They broke that cycle of handouts, if you will. Like we can do this, right? But the majority of most First Nations people that I've met don't have that mindset. I'm not saying all, but quite a bit don't have that. Hey, I'll go out and get it, right?
Oh, I believe it's the same. The same thing happened as here and probably U.S. So
True.
if you go back to residential or industrial schools, so children would go out without any proper education. They would not be able to, and don't forget, like they were all abused, so they would turn to alcohol or drugs, and the cycle would just repeat with, violence at home, and they would probably do whatever, like not have, but like, I don't know, like if there's any good outcome, like if there's any good tool that you can have to overcome the trauma, there's nothing good that can come out of that, right? So they would struggle with domestic abuse or violence in their own homes and alcohol and drugs, and that's how this intergenerational trauma was created. And how you can just like you're lucky that your grandparents broke the cycle, and I can see like many of my friends have the same story here, like their grandparents or also their parents broke the cycle, but still they still feel the consequences of everything, and maybe their kids will be able to feel kind of free and maybe to have more tools or resources to build their lives, but it's going to be very hard.
Yeah. Well, especially even now, and just, we don't have to get political, but just the way, man, COVID really exposed a lot of things too. The way the COVID situation was handled globally, it exposed a lot of things.
Yeah, that's true.
I gotta ask before, how did you get so passionate about like First Nations? Was it when you were in Canada? Is that what started this whole passion for that? What lit that fire for you?
Well, it is just because I like to think about myself that I'm advocate for justice. I'm not, I would not organize a protest. Maybe I would, but and also being a journalist, I actually started, and I love that job because it gives you tools and resources to help someone, to make a story that would shed a light on some problem, or bring the story to the people, like decision makers or somebody who can help. So when I learned about colonization and colonial history of Canada and so many injustices and the residential school system, I was in shock. Like I was really, really disappointed. That's one of the words to explain, to describe my feelings. For example, like tomorrow we have Canada Day here. So Canada celebrate Canada Day as a day when this modern state of Canada was made, recognized, or whatever. I don't celebrate Canada Day. I remember last year when my friend asked me, "Oh, how are you going to celebrate Canada Day?" I said, "I don't celebrate this country because I cannot do that. Like it would be I support everything that happened, and I do understand the modern Canada is not what it was like 100 years ago or 150, but still, like unless everybody are equal and have the same opportunities, I cannot celebrate the state that like." It doesn't mean that I don't respect what I got as an immigrant here. I do, and I'm very grateful. But that's not enough. And that my friend told me, well, it was more like in a form of joke, but like, well, then why did you move here? Like, like, why did you even come to Canada? And I said, well, it's just because Canada has a really good picture that goes, out there. Everybody thinks like this is the perfect country. And I mean, there is no perfect country. Every country has some bad history, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's no heaven on this earth like that. And no state or no country was just, made up because everybody were happy and just wanted to enjoy this privileges. But like, nobody knows about all these cruel things that happened. And when you learn about Canada, at least in Europe, in Serbia, we would not learn more than, Canada is a beautiful country with, high living standard and beautiful nature, and everybody are welcome, and it's multicultural. That's true. But also there is another side that nobody knows about. So, and I was very disappointed to learn about that.
Now, how many years now you've been in Canada?
I don't know. Like, it's because I moved here in December 2016, but then, so it was basically 2017. But then I was going back and forth like 2 times. I went back home and spent for maybe 6 or 8 months there. So officially and for definite, I moved here in 2018. So it's how long? It's been 6 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not so long.
But that's home for you now, right?
It is. Yeah. And once when you pack your bags and you leave your home, it doesn't matter anymore where you are. Like, home is wherever your people are, your family, and wherever you feel safe and happy. So yes, Canada is my home now, but I do miss my family and my people in Serbia. And it gets harder every year because you're getting older. You realize your parents are also getting older. You don't have that perception when you are younger, right? Like, you get that perception when there are more and more people in your communities that are getting older, getting sick, passing away. And 2023 was very hard for my family because we lost 5 very close family members back in Serbia. And we were not able to be there, to support, to grieve, to, just be with our friends and families. So that was really hard. And it is a good question, like what home is and where home is.
I would say it is. I asked it because I know what my answer is because I'm in the same boat. It's hard.
What is your answer?
Well, it's hard. I used to say home, Hawaii is always my home. And something that God put in my heart was that's where your roots are. But your home is where I've called you to be in this chapter of your life. And so even though I'm here in Oregon, this is not my first choice, but I'm here to help my brother and to serve him. My wife made a decision. So while we're here, I will say this is a beautiful place. I enjoy it. It's not my roots, but it is home for now. And it is hard though.
Well,
the funerals are hard. I agree with you. The funerals are hard. Very hard.
Yeah. And I mean, it's hard also to miss all celebrations and of life and celebrations of any kind. Like, I'm not there to see my nephews growing.
Graduations.
Like birthdays, graduations, any small successes, like you're not there, and you see kids from your family growing up and not knowing you, and you go there just if you're lucky to go every summer to use your vacation, if you're lucky to have enough time to go, enough money to go, because it's very expensive, you see them once a year and they change a lot and they don't know you. For them, you're just some relative from Canada. That's it.
For the first 2 years, a year and a half, we flew back and forth a lot. I think a total of 8 times, and that's because of the context, right? So we had to go back. We had conferences to do. We're still doing our pastoral duties in Hawaii. My wife had a funeral. We had 2 funerals to attend. But now it's slowed down because it is expensive. I mean, it's very expensive to travel a lot, and just raising your kids. It's you got to find that balance, right? Like, am I going to spend time? Because last year I wasn't home 6 months out of the year. I was not home, and
Wow.
that was very, very hard for my wife and my kids. It was extremely hard. So
What did you do? Did you go back there?
that was some of the trips, and a lot of the trips. I visit my brother. So my dad and we agree that there's always somebody with my brother at the hospital.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'll be gone 2 weeks. So 2 weeks out of every month, I would be gone. I wouldn't be home. That was hard, very hard. And now looking back,
Wow.
I was so focused, like, I got to take care of this, I got to do this. And my wife and I really came to a place where something's got to change. We need to find some balance. And so I agree with you. The whole being away from home, it's hard. And just trying to find that balance. I
It's
totally,
very hard. And
yeah.
for me, when I moved to Canada, and also it was not my country of choice, and I never wanted to move from Serbia. Like, I love my life in Serbia. I had a really good life there. But I moved because my husband got a job here in Vancouver. And it was, like, oh, this is just 1 year project. And then 1 year turned to be another year in Canada. And at the time, I was hosting the morning show and anchoring cultural news and working as on-field multimedia journalist, like basically the same what I've done with my YouTube channel here. And it was a lot. And I was tired and I needed a break. And I decided, okay, so it's going to be either you are coming home or I will come in and see if I even like Vancouver. So I got my 6 months unpaid leave, and I got pregnant. And it was at that point, it was very easy to make a decision to stay here because, in every aspect, Canada is better for raising a kid, because especially in Serbia, like, political situation was not the best at the time. It's even worse now. I would not go back. Like, a lot of people are asking me, are you planning to go back? Unfortunately, no. Like, yeah, as you say, my roots are there, but I would not like to go back and live in that society right now. Maybe in 5 or 10 years, but currently no. But it was very hard because culture, like North American culture, is very different from European. And I didn't know anyone. I had absolutely no community, no friends, people that could help me in any way, with advices. Go to the doctor here, or this is how you do this or that. So it was extremely, extremely stressful. And I feel you. I know how it is.
Do you miss the lights and the camera, and
No.
you don't miss that?
You know what? I actually don't ask myself that question a lot, but when I do, I always say, no, I don't miss it. But I'm not sure if I'm maybe tricking myself not to think about that because I miss it. I don't miss cameras. I don't miss that part of my previous life, because, when you tell someone that you are a TV host and that's your job, people always think, oh, that's very glamorous, like you're on camera and people, like, you have like big audiences, watching your shows. But when you are in front of camera, you don't have that perception. Your perception is, oh, this is very hard work, because actually everything happens before you go on live. So there's a lot of work. There are big teams working on every show. So I miss that excitement. I miss being able to share the stories. And that's why I actually created my YouTube channel when I moved here, to share the stories and, to help people who had no answers about life in Canada, because I was reached out by many, many people from Serbia and Bosnia and Croatia, Macedonia, who wanted to come here, and they had, millions of questions like, how do I get the visa? How do I find the job there? How do I find a good school for my kid? And I realized, this is, it's good thing that I'm doing this because I'm helping a lot of people. But then at one point, I also realized I'm not a consultation immigrant. My intention was not to make stories about, how to obtain a visa and how to find a job. I want to talk about meaningful things like how to integrate in this society and the importance of cultural adaptation and integration in any society you move into.
So for people that don't know how me and Irina met, when we, I don't know who saw who first. I just remember there's a red dot on this map. And whenever you tap on a red dot, you would go to that country or that location. And I think you were showing something scenic. There were several broadcasts. I remember you would turn your phone on and you would do it live while you're on TV.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the coolest thing. I didn't understand a single word. I just thought that was so cool because I could see in the background, I see the lights, I could see the telephone.
You know how many problems I had with my coworkers because I was periscoping during the morning show, the culture news, because they had no idea what periscope was.
Yeah.
And they were so afraid that something would go wrong. And they were afraid that people would see something that's not appropriate. And I spent a lot of time explaining to my coworkers that we have to open up. We have to show people that this is what is happening behind the scenes. It's not everything, like just what you see on TV screens. But that was just too much for some of them to understand. But still, I did it, and I loved it. And I really enjoyed that part. And Periscope was the best thing that ever happened to digital world. Yeah. And it still is. I think even these days, if we would have Periscope, a lot of people would benefit from just the thing that you said, like you open the map and you see red spots and you know where to go and where people, like in what countries or cities people are live at the moment, and you can just join. And there's nothing like that right now, right?
No.
I'm so out of the loop, but there's nothing like that. Why did they kill Periscope?
So Kayvon, the founder, he finally talked about it a couple of months ago. And I think he basically said that we messed up. And I'm paraphrasing, right? But basically they had a good product and they didn't assimilate the social structure of Twitter to provide a covering that was sustainable. I don't know if I agree with that 100% because Periscope was amazing outside of Twitter. It really was. It was amazing even without Twitter. But I do agree that he said he didn't believe that a standalone live stream app would be able to survive on its own.
Why?
I think revenue, maybe. It could be revenue. I don't know. I don't believe that though. I don't believe that. But
there are so many platforms that are surviving. TikTok and others.
I think what it is, and so Joey, who is in my profile, I don't know, not sure if you ever heard of Joey, but he created a product that moderated conversation on Periscope.
Okay.
And so anyways, when he actually worked for Twitter, and one of the discussions that is commonplace about employees at Twitter is that there's a lot of politics within the company. So if Irina comes up with a product and I come up with a product, there's a lot of bickering as to whose product is better, right?
That's so normal in corporations like that, right?
Yeah. So I think that's one of the reasons. But I mean, if you just common sense would tell you, if I have a live stream product like Periscope, it's not hard to make money. You just charge people for super hearts. You charge people for little things here and there. So,
well, they could probably just integrate some, allow commercials or do the same thing as YouTube, right?
Yeah.
At some point. But you know what? This is how I feel, and I stopped periscoping in 2016, I believe, 2017. So I don't know what happened after, but first of all, Periscope was first live streaming app. There was nothing like that before, and the community was so small. Like the core community was so small. Like first adapters, as that's how you met. Yeah. So a lot of people met on Periscope. Yeah, the map. And the core community was so small, and we all knew each other, and everybody was so supportive. And most of people didn't use Periscope for business. Yeah, there were some people who were trying to get something out of their streams or whatever, build their products. And, we can see some of them even, doing the same thing now. And that's fair, that's okay. But most of the community were genuine. They just wanted to share their stories and support others. And that happened on Periscope, and that didn't happen anywhere. Like YouTube is very different. Instagram, Twitter, like TikTok, like every platform is absolutely different. And I don't think there is community connection on any other platform that outside of Periscope. And I'm so sorry. Just that aspect of Periscope was meaningful. Like there's no meaningful social connections on other platforms. That's what I miss.
Yeah. And I think I met, my number keeps changing because I can't remember, but I want to say I met at least a total of about 100 people through Periscope.
Oh yeah.
At least, like physically.
You know how many people? Yeah, you know how many people I met. Like you are actually in this part of the world where it's easier. In Serbia, I was the only one on Periscope, and still I've met so many people. Like the first and only person I met here when I came as a tourist in Vancouver was somebody I met on Periscope. Some people came to Belgrade and we met because we first met on Periscope. There is a friend from Melbourne in Australia, a friend from Dubai, a friend from Bulgaria, a friend from America who came, and he was just, visiting the region, and he came to Belgrade just because he saw Belgrade in my scopes, and we met. A great friend came to visit me in Vancouver. She brought her daughter, and we spent few awesome days here. And my husband was so surprised. He was like, okay, you're really going to meet someone that you don't even know how she looks. I didn't know how she looks like before we met in person because she was not doing lives. And when we met, it was like I'm meeting with a relative, long lost relative. So it was really amazing. You don't get that.
I met Sarah and of course Tala. So Sarah's in here. She's in Canada, Newfoundland actually. In Newfoundland. Okay. But I met her and her mom in Hawaii. They came, and I met Tala, of course, in California. And one time I was in Costco, and I was with my kids. As a parent, you have different eyes as a parent. You have your peripheral vision, and I felt somebody just looking at me. And I'm looking, and the guy just staring at me. He didn't look harmful. He looked very harmless. I'm looking at him. He's watching me. And then I'm like, and then he came up and introduced himself, and I just, he saw me on Periscope. He saw the red dot, and so.
Well, you see, that's the dangerous part of social media. Actually, like we probably didn't have that
foresight
at the time, and I would like to think that the world was a better place at the time. But I think now, like a lot of anxiety arised after pandemic, and with all the bad news spreading around and fake news spreading around, I think people are more anxious, more paranoid, and more aggressive. That's my impression, at least. I think it would be dangerous today to just go live and everybody can see your location and find you, because happened to me in once when I was doing live from downtown Belgrade. The guy was not, and I was very lucky because I was live at the moment. There was some guy who started following me, and he was not very aggressive, but he was persistent, and I had troubles, to get rid of him. And I was lucky because I was live, and I remember I just, telling to my friends all around the world, so nobody would even able to help me. But I told them like, okay, just stay here and we have to figure out what to do. But then I realized, oh my God, I am the only one periscoping from Belgrade, from Serbia. And I know there are a lot of people, well, some people who would not go live, but they had the app and they would watch my lives and they would know my whereabouts. And I was like, this is not safe anymore. I don't feel safe anymore.
There was so I did a live stream. I met other periscopers in Hawaii, and we went to a bakery. And my wife was with me, and there was someone that was, I don't like using this term because I don't feel like that, but she was kind of a stalker to me.
Oh, yeah.
But I never felt that way because maybe I was naive at the time. But my wife knew. Well, she was like, no, this is not today. Well,
Yeah.
my wife is not today. And
Yeah.
after that moment, it never happened again. So I do agree.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Like, as you said, like as a parent, you have different perspective on anything. And I cannot imagine myself right now, giving out the location of my kid's school or
Yeah.
where we live or our neighborhood even, which I did. Like when I was doing my YouTube channel, I would post a lot on Instagram. I would do stories like, 20, 30 stories a day, always trying not to reveal the location of our apartment or his daycare at the time. But I was very conscious and had to think constantly about that. Don't show anything that is close. No bakeries, no restaurants, no shops, nothing. You can turn off your location,
Yeah.
but people who live there, it's very easy to
Yeah.
recognize the beach or the bakery or whatever. It's very, very dangerous. And I'm so sorry to see, a lot of parents still don't have that mindset. They just would, put pictures of their kids out there and don't think about all the dangerous things that can happen online.
Well, we tried with our kids in the beginning, but we were live streaming before Periscope. We had other outlets like Facebook and this other app called Ustream. So we were on Ustream, not Facebook. But when Periscope came out, we were very adamant not showing our kids. But then Facebook Live came out a little bit after Periscope, right? And so our church's live streams were on Facebook. And one day my daughter was on a live stream. And after that point, I'm like, you know what? Let's just be smart about it. Let's be wise. And I would be live in my home and my GPS would be on just because it's Hawaii. But I would never show my TVs. I would never show anything expensive. But now going back, I'm like, I probably shouldn't have done that. I probably should have put my location on in my home. But like for you, like how do you, because you've been in front of the camera or you've got experience with camera and social media. Like, what are your boundaries for your kids when it comes to like social media? Like I show my kids' faces. I'm totally fine with that. But do you have any boundaries that?
All boundaries now.
Yeah.
There were no boundaries before. So when I was creating my content for YouTube and Instagram, I would put, as I said, like 20, 30 stories a day. And most of my stories were, about like everything was basically about our daily life. So I would not talk about our personal life, like what we love to do, but I would talk about, what are the possibilities for, families, what you can do in Vancouver, where you can go, like where is a good food or where you can take your kid. So he would appear in a lot of my posts and stories, and he was in some of my YouTube videos. Like we would go for a family trip for a day or two, and he was in my videos. And then I realized one day, first of all, I never asked him if he would, agree to be in my videos or my social media posts. He's too small. He cannot understand. There are a lot of predators out there who would, just take advantage of, me posting my kid. And I decided this is not going to happen. Like my kid is not the content that I want to like I don't want to use my kid for creating content, and I never posted any photo of him anymore. And I think the last photo that I posted with him was maybe 3 years ago, or something like that. And I don't want to post his photos, anything about, there are a lot of things I would like to share on social media with my close friends and my family, like, some of his successes, graduation, as you say, and other things. But hey, we have like WhatsApp groups and other channels to share that. Like, I don't have to share that on social media. Yes, if there's something that I'm really proud of or whatever, maybe I will share something this and there, but I definitely don't want to create my content around my kid anymore. He was not never the main part of my content, but he was there. I think it's too much. And like, if I can, I will do my best not to give him, not to familiarize him with social media, for many, many years. Like, at least if I can. I don't think that will be doable, but we'll see.
My studio, I have mics and I have my lights, and it's my doors have all this sound dampening. I have sound treatment. So when my door is closed, my kids know not to come in. However, my youngest son, he doesn't understand that boundary. He just comes in. I can be live right now. He'll come in, open the door, come and give me a hug. That's how he is, and I'm okay with that.
How old is he?
11. He's a hugger. So when he wants a hug, he's going to come get it. So we can be live. He'll come and get the hug, and I'm okay with that as long as we don't linger. And I'm listening to you now, and I'm rethinking, because the world is getting weird in that respect, right? With the AI, child predators. I did a podcast with a friend of mine who was a cop. Actually, I promoted his company in the beginning. Someone.
I need that training, by the way. When I go there next time, I will look for him.
His daughter was almost kidnapped at Costco.
Wow.
I'll share the video with you. Made the news and everything. And he's a cop, and he teaches self-defense on top of that. So, the world's different now. It's a little bit different. I take to heart what you shared. So, with the child predator, can we talk a little bit about the violence against women initiatives that you had over the years? Can we talk about a few of those? First of all, what led you to be passionate about that?
Well, it was my personal experience, and it's funny, when I got familiar with like Western culture and how businesses are and personal brands are built here, I realized, everybody has a story, like everybody has some very difficult story or trauma they overcome, and this is how they get passionate about advocating about anything. But then also I learned, like, a lot of those stories are made up, like they're not true. My story was true. So I had personal experience with emotional abuse in a relationship that I had many years ago. And I was just passionate about sharing, not my story, not my personal story, but my experience, and trying to educate girls, women, and men as well, how to recognize those red flags. Because when that happened to me, I realized I was growing up, and I grew up in a family, in a big family, with a lot of women who survived, different kinds of abuses, like physical, mental, emotional abuses. And those stories were never shared. Similar, like, what we just spoke about, residential schools, like families, like your grandparents or, my friends' grandparents would not share their experience from residential school. And it's similar with any kind of abuse, like people don't talk about that. I don't think that's, just in my culture. I believe it's pretty much the same in every culture. Like, people don't talk about bad things in their family history. But when I decided to share my story, I did a little research. in my family, and I realized that I have, let's say, 13 relatives that were 10 years older than I was at the time, and 11 of them had similar experiences. 11 women out of 13. That's a very high number. And I realized I don't want this to happen to my young cousins, like at the time my young cousins were like 7 and 9 and 10 and 12, and I wanted to be that role model that they can look up to, and first of all learn something from me, but also rely on me, or if they have any problem, if they see any red flags, or they think they need support, I wanted to be that person that they would come and ask for advice or protection or whatever. And that was my first initial goal. But then what actually happened was, I was in Periscope. I was doing my live, one of my daily scopes, and it was International Day Against Violence Against Women. And it was very genuine. I just shared my story and, the importance of, educating not just young generations, but everyone, in showing support. And, as a public figure in Serbia, I felt like this is what we have to do, because you cannot just, stay silent about any social issue, especially if you have your personal experience. And I don't know who it was, but my friends on Periscope encouraged me to share that story on my website. At the time, I had a blog. I had my website, and I would write like 2 or 3 blogs a week. And they just encouraged me to share that, and, to not to go public, like in a big way, but just, share that and use that tool as a platform for, sharing the story, so everybody could go there and that would live there forever. And I did. And I had no idea what consequences would come out, or like what outcome of that, just sharing my blog would be. So I shared my story, and the day after I published my story, like, media outlets in Serbia started resharing and writing articles about me. And I was so mad because first of all, I didn't plan that. I didn't expect that to happen. Like, nobody would, like, they would not, share my stories about importance of, supporting people with disabilities. No, they decided to share, exclusive story about emotional abuse, like, oh, this public figure was emotionally abused by her ex-partner. So I was mad, I was angry, but I used that as an opportunity to, spread the awareness about, how important that campaign is. And I started my own campaign to, break the silence and to support each other. And that's how it started. And, I would go to, different TV shows to talk about that. But I'm happy also because people were respectful. Nobody would actually ask me about my personal experience and who that person was and how I survived that, what happened. But because probably it was because I choose not to talk to those kind of media. I very wisely choose to talk, with media, or to get involved with events that were good platforms for sharing this story. And I just use them to spread awareness and maybe help someone. And we did help some people. So as you say in our conversation before we went live, you cannot save everyone, you cannot help everyone, but if you save like 3 lives, like, that's a lot.
Well, that's 3 generations, right? If you save one person, that's at least 1 generation. So what are some examples of red flags that you would coach some of these people on? What would be an example of some red flags?
From my perspective now, and if I think, from my experience now, I would say, oh, just very basic common things. But that's not just basic common for somebody who has no experience. And at a time, like what happened to me, and that's the trickiest part of any, like relationship you are getting involved, like any person you're getting involved with, like even if you have not experience, but you have that inner voice that say, oh, this is not right. Like as your wife said, like this is not really, this is not the day for the stock. Like jealousy, like small cues that you would see are out of what we all perceive normal, like too many questions about our ex-partners, like too many criticism about this or that, like, getting, how people who are, prone to be abusive, first of all, they're very charming, and they want to consume all your life. They want to get to know all your parents and your family, to know your whereabouts, like 24/7. We spend every minute together. That's not normal. And at first moment you're overwhelmed, you're in love, you think, oh, this is so cute, that person wants to share everything. And it really takes some time until you absorb everything and realize, oh, that's actually not normal, because once that person is involved in everything, they start actually criticizing everything that they think or perceive as a danger for the relationship. So there are many like red flags. First of all is jealousy, and instructions how to behave, what to wear, what you can, who are your friends you can hang out with or you cannot hang out with. But that's not normal for people who don't have experience for that, or for vast majority of people who just basically fall in love and they don't see that as something negative.
The what to wear is definitely a red flag. If someone tells you not to wear something, to me that's a red flag. And my wife was telling me, because my wife before me, she was in an abusive relationship for years, both physically and emotionally, and verbally, all of it. And that was one of the things she talked about, is that if she was dressed a certain way, her partner at the time would tell her, well, you're not wearing that. That's a red flag if someone tells you, no, you can't. To me, that's a major red flag, right? To that.
It is, but the problem is that, like, all these small things, they come after some time.
True.
And by the time that comes, you are already so involved, and you're like, not a lot of people would think, okay, so this is not good, this is red flag, I have to remove myself from this situation. No, most people would think, oh, okay, maybe this is not normal, but let's make this person, my partner, let's reassure this person that I have good intentions. I don't want to do anything, perceived as wrong or bad. So I want to make that person feel safe and secure with me, and then their perception will change. And that never happens, right?
So do you have you done speaking engagements other than TV? Do you do conferences or workshops for?
I did before. So when I lived in Serbia, I would go, I would speak in TV shows or panel discussions, like when it's, again, International Day of, fighting violence against women, I would be invited and talk, at a panel discussion. I would moderate a lot of conferences, but not related to that. Like, it was mostly about digital media. I was a speaker at some conferences about digital media, and what I'm most proud of is that once I was a speaker at, again, a conference about digital media, and I had a presentation about Periscope, and I went live during my presentation. It was amazing because people didn't know about Periscope at the time. I think it was maybe 2014 or something. It was very, very new.
Do you think,
not just in Serbia,
do you think there's a possibility of having something like a resurgence of that? Do you think that's a possibility?
Having what? Can you please repeat?
Like
Having
a resurgence of Periscope, something like Periscope. Do you think there's a possibility of a revival of that? No.
No. What I think is going to happen, and I hope it's going to happen in maybe, but not soon, maybe in 20, 30 years, social media will not die, but it won't be so relevant because we had this, big expansion in the last 15, 20 years. It started with Facebook. And I feel that even now people are overwhelmed with social media.
Sure.
And why we got hooked is because we all had this fear of missing out. And what I think is happening now, people realize, oh, I don't actually miss out on anything. So that fear of missing out is kindly, vanishing. And also there are new generations, and I think of myself, like my generation, we are raising kids that are not on social media, and we did it all, and we know what the consequences are, like being hooked on social media or whatever, like there are many good things that come out of social media, and I would not like to see that go away, but overconsumption is definitely a bad thing that happened. And like I can see my friends raising kids with the intention of not letting them use social media as much as we did. And my hope is that, like everything bad that happened because of, fake news and all the anxiety shared on social media. So I feel like in 20, 30 years, it's going to go on, in total opposite of that. And social media won't be so relevant anymore. And people will not use it that much. And when all this madness about influencers and marketing, paid marketing that's still going on social media goes out of fashion, let's say, real social elite will be people who are not on social media, who are keeping their lives private, as it was before social media.
Yeah, because that's true. It was.
It was. So you would actually live your life. You would enjoy the moment. You would go on vacation with your family and, enjoy with your kids. You would not go live and miss all the moments with your family having fun at the beach because you feel like, oh, I have to go live. I have to, get more likes or whatever. Because I do understand like overconsumption on the other side. Like I do understand not overconsumption, but content creation for people who are sharing meaningful content or creating meaningful content or for business purpose. That's completely different. But using social media, with no meaningful cause, I don't think that's going to survive.
Do you remember the movie The Truman Show with Jim Carrey?
Oh, yeah.
You're talking right now, and I'm like, oh my God, I was the Truman Show of Hawaii.
Yeah.
Every day,
Same
I would go live every day. Literally wake up, make a cup of coffee, and then live stream my coffee, and then just talk story. And now it's different. And I was going to make a post on social media on Twitter yesterday. I was going to say Periscope is dead. Let's move on, right? But it's been a long time already. But I said, you know what? I'm not going to do that because that's just going to incite violence. but the truth is that's probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. It was for that to shut down in that way because my kids, my oldest daughter, she's married now. She graduated this past spring. She's married, graduated college. She never had social media until she was 18 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
We didn't allow it. Because Dad was on it every day, and I knew what it was, and I don't know how we did it. My wife, I attribute my wife. My wife was very instrumental in that, and all of my kids now don't have social media at all.
That's what I'm talking about. You know what the traps of social media are, and you're not going to let them go down that rabbit hole, right?
So I think moving forward, what I feel in my season of my life in terms of, and I don't want to say social media anymore because I'm really passionate about having discussions. And I think we were so enthralled or so driven to create content that I got to share my my muffin, I got to share my coffee, I got to share the ocean. And I'm like, no. Now it's like, I really want to do long form conversations where there's no forced timelines of you to deliver something that's viral.
Yeah.
I'm okay. We're talking and there's dead space. I'm okay with that. If you were in my home right now and we were talking and it gets quiet, we're like,
that's okay.
Okay. So the pressure to create content and to get viral, I think I agree with you. I think we're shifting from that. And yeah, because we have more meaningful conversations this way.
I don't think it's going to happen fast,
True.
but I think it's going to happen. And I want to reflect on two things here. Very important. First of all, you said I would share my coffee I would share a beach, I would go to the ocean. But the difference between you sharing your coffee and the ocean and somebody who would really just share the ocean and the coffee is the meaningful conversation that you always had while, having your coffee or sharing that ocean. Yes, I was very lucky to see the ocean. And this time, like first time when I went to Hawaii, I felt like, oh my God, this is so familiar because I know it. I've already seen this. But it was about meaningful conversations that we all had on Periscope. We didn't have that empty, space where we would not talk about anything, but just, look around. When I say meaningful, I even talk about, just any of our friends around the world who would, show and talk about their history of their peoples or, culture, or like we would learn a lot. It was not like we would not have any empty conversations. That's why I love Periscope, like building the community, having connections with people and learning a lot every day. So, but also in order to keep to stay in the loop, I would also do the same. So I would go live 3 or 3 times a day in Serbia. I would paint my cabinets and go live just to chat with my friends. But also I was doing Serbian lessons. So I was trying
That's right. I remember.
teach them some Serbian language. I would do behind the scenes. I would travel around Serbia and show them, castles or museums or any tourist attractions. But that was very time consuming. Same as you say now, like I need this to be meaningful and longer, not just to fill the algorithm. But what I realized on YouTube, and I was, one-man show, and it was a lot of work for me. It was 24/7. I missed many moments with my kid when I was doing my YouTube channel. And then I realized, okay, so what I would like to do, because I really love to share stories, to create stories, and not be on camera, but try to educate people on different topics. But it takes like 2 or 3 weeks to make a really good, meaningful story. And that's not enough for YouTube. YouTube wants you to post every Sunday, 11 a.m., to do the shorts, respond to all comments, post on the community page, post here and there, and then share everything on Instagram and share everything on Facebook because you need to drive more engagement and traffic. And for what? To get the monetization of like a few $100.
Yeah. And how many hours did you put in, right?
Yeah. So, I hope it's going to happen. Like this what I hope, what I said it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen fast, but probably when companies realize like, oh, there's no more money in social media.
Well, it's not worth it to them, right? Because but it's a trap. What you just said, it's a trap that they put out there for content creators that there's just
come up with everything with something new every few months.
And it's like people are putting in. So there's a group of people that are posting what they make. I'll just use Twitter as an example. They post how much money they make, and I'm fine with that. But it's kind of weird for me. I don't post what I earn in anything I do, unless it's something that specifically that may help somebody.
Yeah.
But I give them a clear, and I disclose everything as much as possible, because I don't want it to be a braggadocious post, but to be honest. Hey, if you want to, like, for example, I posted a Turo. We have a Turo rental unit in Georgia, Atlanta. And so I share with you, hey, if you have a car, you can make this. This is the plan. This is our analytics. And if you want to do it, this make a little bit extra money. But when it comes to social media, the people that are posting their earnings, I asked a few of them, would you be willing to share how much time you put into this application? And I haven't gotten that yet. And so it's a trap to get people so invested into these platforms, and they're giving their life away. Like my kids the other night, if I'm on a computer, I do editing. I try to edit some videos, and they're not the best, but I do it, and I do it every other day or every day. If my kids come in here and say, hey, Daddy, you're going to come watch with us, I already know I need to wind it down, shut it down, and get out there.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to miss that moment. It's like you said, I don't want to be here behind my computer for hours and hours, and my kids are like, Dad, are you going to come join us?
Yeah.
I don't want to miss that.
And it's very easy to fall into the trap because you see so many successful, let's say, content creators on different platforms, and they make it look easy. As you say, nobody actually talks about, how many hours do you have to put just creating graphics. Like for that story about residential schools, and you said about the videos when I filmed myself, it took me 2 days to film just myself. I had to put on makeup, to get my hair done, to go out and think about, the timing and the weather, if it's going to be cloudy or if it's raining or if it's sunny, do I have to use, like, what equipment do I have to use? And
the lighting.
Yeah, and the location, and to fix the light and the mic, and it's too much. And you know what happened? Like when I was doing my YouTube, because a lot of people from Serbia would recognize me, as a journalist from Radio Television of Serbia, and they would say, oh, well, yeah, this is somebody who is well educated and with a lot of experience, and of course this looks so good. And they would say, oh my God, some TV station needs to buy this, actually to buy this content, and to pay you for making this content, and then to broadcast that. And then at some point I realized, okay, because this is so time consuming and I don't have time to work, right? I don't have no income. And I had no revenue. Monetization on YouTube is very strange. Like when you have audience in East Balkans, it doesn't pay so much. So I started my Patreon. And you know how it goes with Patreon. It's, like very small amounts, like $2 or $5 or $10 for like very exclusive content. And I got 10 subscribers. And 7 of them were my family and friends. So all of those people who were so spoiled with my content and who said, oh, somebody needs to pay for this, didn't want to pay $2 per month to be able to get any exclusive content. I was like, no, I'm not going to put my, hours in this just for your free entertainment.
Yeah. So
you have to make hard decisions sometimes.
What type of investment on equipment have you made, like cameras, or what do you use for your cameras? I'm curious.
This one.
That's so funny, dude. That's awesome. Get out of here.
Yeah. So the thing is, like, so I was trained in Serbia. I was trained by people who worked for BBC, how to do this. Multimedia journalists are usually people who film with mostly iPhones, and it's always fun. So yes, in my home studio, I have a green screen, and I have reflectors, like professional lights, and I have small ring light, and I have lapel mic. But I filmed everything with my iPhone. And even if you would give me a professional camera, I would not know how to use it. Like color correction or any effect, like whatever I used in post production, it was done in post production. But my camera is very basic iPhone, and it was like always so funny when I would meet other people who were thinking about starting their YouTube channels. The first thing that everybody would say was like, "Oh, I got a professional camera. I got 4 drones. I want to have really good picture." I'm like, no, you don't need a drone. You don't need professional camera. You need the idea. You need a story, and you just need the idea, like what you want to say with that picture. Any camera would work. And if you think about that, you just go back and think about Casey Neistat, who did his daily vlogs at the time. And he used his phone camera. And if you watch his old videos that he'd done, like so many ideas, even if you're amateur, you have no idea how to operate camera, like how to do different shots, different angles. You just, there's so many good content out there. Just, invest some time, go and see, like different videos, like what people are doing, and get creative. That's it.
So what do you use for? So I'll share with you what I use when I'm live, or even if I do a pre-recorded video. I use note cards, and then I have, of course, I handwrite everything. I also have the iPhone. What is a notes on iPhone? I just make notes. If I have an idea, I'll just put it in there, and then it goes to I have my Google, and so that's kind of how I try to craft something that's a somewhat of a story. But 90% of that after the fact is just improv, I guess, if you will. But I have my notes. But I love how you use the iPhone, because the majority of my videos are either my iPhone or I have a Samsung. My professional camera is when I'm here at home, when I'm in the studio setting. So, but
well, it's hard to. I feel I have no experience, but I would think it's very hard to do, let's say, vlog. If you do it with professional camera, it's very different. It's easy to do it with your phone. What I do for scripting, so it really depends. I would script all my stories. So I don't know if you've seen my I had different videos on my YouTube channel. So some of the videos would be like Irina is in front of camera and she talks about whatever, and it's just me talking to camera, and I would script everything from hello to goodbye, and then I would try to learn as much as I can. I would not follow that exact script, but I would know what's coming. So I memorize the text and the script, and then I know what is coming. And even if I forget, what is my next line, there is no next line. I just know what is coming.
Yeah.
And then it's easy for me to, just go with the flow. And of course I would, forget something, but then that was not live. So I would also, it would be easy just to go back and
edit,
redo whatever it's needed. I would do also the same thing if I would do like short videos of myself somewhere outside that I would use for different stories. I would also memorize my script. And I don't think a lot of people do that, especially on YouTube. People just improvise, but that's part of the problem. People, vast majority of content creators think it's enough to improvise. Oh, I know what I'm talking about and I can just improvise.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you just, the conversation with yourself takes different paths, and people just, end up talking about nothing because they start somewhere and then they had a good idea about, I could also mention this, or I could mention that. And then you end up having very long video that has actually 3 topics. That cannot happen if you have the script and you just hold on the script, what you want to share, and maybe in the next video we can talk about something else.
I didn't get a chance to watch the whole thing because of the language difference, but the 5 stages of an immigrant,
Yeah,
I would love to have an English version of that because that's interesting to me to have that.
it is, and I think it's the most popular one of the most popular videos, and it was my first video, and it's very interesting because it's official. It is like there are actually six stages like bonus phase, um, and I didn't come up with that. Like there is some research was done about that, and it's actually it's not just for immigrants who move to different countries. It's for people who maybe move to a different city within their region. So you have to go through those stages, and I got so many comments and like DMs, people saying me, "Oh my God, this is what I'm going to right now." Oh, or they would say like, "Oh my God, I wish if I had somebody to tell me this like 20 years ago when I moved um, to Canada or wherever." Uh, it would be great to have someone to say, "Oh, that's normal. You're just going through stage 3." So first stage is when you move and it's honeymoon. You love everything about that country or that city. You're discovering new restaurants and coffee shops and the beaches or nature or the museums wherever you are, and it's the best. Well, not the best, but one of the best phases. And then stage 2 is cultural shock, when you realize, oh my God, this is so different from what I'm used to, and I don't like it because it's so different and I don't feel comfortable. And then stage 3 would be, let's say, adaptation. You're actually, building some rituals. You find your favorite coffee shop. You know what to expect if this or that happened. You maybe have some friends already. You found a family doctor. You feel good, better at least. And then stage 4 is settling in. You accept the differences in the culture. You maybe even like them, and maybe that doesn't feel like a home yet, but you feel better. And then stage 5 is like, oh, this feels like home now. And for any immigrant, they say it takes from 5 to 7 years to go through all those stages. And number 6 is reverse cultural shock, when you go back to your home country and you don't like it there anymore. Like, oh, you feel like this is wrong and you could improve this and that. Yeah.
You said reverse because so where we live now, it's a desert. So every time we go back to Hawaii, we are so sweaty because it's so humid. Oh, it's crazy! Like we can't handle the humidity. It feels sticky and it's like it's
yeah.
So
Very different.
Outside of the 5 stages of immigrants, what other do you have any projects for YouTube planned in the near future?
No, I have to say no, because I mean that's true, but it's because yesterday I was thinking about that same question, like, oh, is it time to start planning something new? I don't know. I needed some break. So as I said, like running YouTube channel was very exhausting. It was time consuming and very exhausting. And I realized, first of all, I'm not consultation immigrant. Immigration consultant. I don't want to do that. I don't want to create the content that people would perceive as, just, advices on how to get a visa. And what I want to create is not something that would pay my bills. And I'm not the salesman. I don't know how to, and I would not like to reach out or to have to, make deals with companies. Like that's not, something that I'm good at, and I don't want to do that. So I would really either have to, have a huge following, actually do my content in English. So I would have, following from all over the world, not just that region, and that would maybe pay off. But because I don't want to do that, I have to do something different. And then I started looking for a job, real job that would pay my bills. And after I started working, I had no time for social media anymore, and I was very tired. So for me now, even thinking about, sharing one photo on Instagram is hard. I feel like I cannot come up with a caption, and these days I really share something if I really, 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 really have something to say, or I just want to, share a good photo, but that's very rare. I believe one of my last posts was actually from Hawaii because
Yeah, I saw that.
yeah.
Did you
yeah,
ring the
I
bell?
had-
Did you ring the bell?
Yes, of course. Of course. And I got this bracelet. I don't know if you can see
Yeah.
this
Let me
one.
let me put you on a big jumbotron. Go ahead, show it off.
I bought this in the same temple, and I love the story of this little fish. It's the meaning of the fish is, just go with the flow, and that's how I live my life, and it just resonated with me, and it's such a nice, reminder of my good time in Hawaii and of that life philosophy, go with the flow. So anyways, I was very tired, and my YouTube, yeah, thanks, I'm in Vancouver. So my YouTube channel happened and grow during pandemic, and I had time for that at that moment. But also, as I said, I was tired. I felt like I needed to find a job, but also if you go back, you would remember that when pandemic started and everybody were not able to go out or do whatever,
Yep.
there was an explosion of online courses, trainings, workshops, whatnot, and I was planning to maybe start my own training on video, filming, editing, storytelling, public speaking. And then I realized, okay, I could make this program. It would be amazing. It would be good because I'm professional. Like, this is what I do for a living. But the thing is, I would do it in my language. And audience, my audience or people from the region where I come from, the living standard is not the same as in Canada. So I would need a lot of people to sign up for that for a minimum cost. Let's say, something that they could afford would not give me the minimum wage in Canada. So, the numbers were totally against me doing that. So I didn't. I did start with some short YouTube training, and I had few people who signed up, and that was fun. But I realized this is not going to be sustainable. I cannot do this. So I would have to charge a lot, to be able to be satisfied with that. You cannot do any work and just kind of do it for free or pro bono. So yeah, the math was not good, and I decided let's just put that on wait for some time. So maybe I can do that sometime, but that moment is not now.
I will be one of your first customers. Do you remember Yo Pickles from Periscope?
Oh yeah, of course.
So I met her in Honolulu. We had a great time,
Really?
by the way. Yeah, we had a great. Oh my gosh, she has a video where we ate at a restaurant with a whole bunch of us, and we were just having a blast. But I think the day before, I can't remember the day after, we had a meeting with her, and it was a business meeting. We just sat down, we talked about business and how. And I wanted to know, how do you generate income doing what you're doing? And so she has a course through Thinkific, is the company. And so I actually have a course on Thinkific, working on my second one. And so I kind of did that route too. However, my price point, I set it really low. And by the advice of my colleagues, my mentors, they said, why are you pricing it so low? All the work you put into it, all the time you put into it.
Yeah.
And so I raised the price back up to what was advised. And so I'm still navigating through that because the price point is kind of high. Well, I think it is. But I believe in it too, because I put in a lot of work in it. I put in a lot of time. I'm not good with editing videos. And so for me, it was double, right? So, but you know what? I put it out there, and it's good. It's a good practice for me. And I think, with we talk about the online. My wife she went back to college during COVID.
Okay.
Yeah, so everything online, right, with the whole COVID and just having those avenues available.
Oh yeah.
So if you
I
do,
think.
yeah, if you come with a course, I'll be a customer for
Well,
sure.
thank you for this tip. I will definitely consider that. I remember when I was on Periscope, and it was maybe, let's say, a few months in, or maybe a year in. A friend who was at a time a big influencer in Serbia, and but at a time, not even like influencers would get paid. They would not
Yeah,
be, hired by companies. They would get some income here and there, but it was not something as common as is it now. But anyways, he had some, campaigns that he would run, and he had some revenue out of social media. And he asked me, okay, so are you monetizing Periscope? I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even know how to monetize Periscope. Like, there's no, like, nothing like monetization on Periscope. That was long before,
yeah,
right? Everything happened. And I think that's, like, if you go back to that, thing of like feeding the algorithm. And the other thing is that also that you have to be a businessman.
yeah,
You have to know how to grow this, how to scale whatever you're doing. And like, there's no training for that. Like, you can try and see what does work and what not. But even if you talk about having trainings on different platforms, you have to promote your trainings, you have to advertise them, you
yeah.
have to get some people who would be willing to pay for your course. It's so hard. Like, I don't know if that pays off. Like, I would be more than happy to hear that it does. So it does make sense.
I think with with the companies today that are willing to pay you on the ad revenue, that's something that we didn't have back in the day, right? Because they didn't
Yeah.
really have ad revenue specific to
Yeah.
for that app. I will say there's one company that stuck with me since 2016. I'm looking at it. I was going to grab it, but I don't need to. But it's like Archon Mountains. They've been with me since 2016, and
Oh, wow, that's amazing. I know
yeah,
about that. I
yeah.
remember that.
They one year they gave away about $35,000 worth of equipment in 1 year,
Wow.
just to promote the company and to help the content creators who were partnered up with them.
But you see, like, that's the thing. Like, if you're getting, let's say, in-kind sponsorships, like, there's just a certain amount of in-kind sponsorships that you can take. Like, what are you going to do with new equipment every year? You don't need that much, right? So,
I had
like,
well, I had so much. I had so much equipment. I was giving it away. But the funny thing is, I had so much that I was taking it all apart and making my own creations.
okay, so that makes sense.
Well, but the thing is, it's not as glamorous as people. It used to be maybe, but they don't pay you anymore. They pay
I
you
don't think it is.
they pay like 5% or 10% of
Yeah.
what you sell. That's one agreement, and the other ones are, if you're a big time, then you have the contract where they pay you a flat lump sum to do a video. So if someone says, "Hey, this YouTube video is sponsored by," that means they got a check, right? They got a check written to them to promote. Usually is what, 3-4 times in a video they got to promote the products, and so. But that's a
It's
pipe
not
dream.
glamorous at all.
Yeah, true. I agree.
So, like, how did you survive, this era when Periscope went off? And I lost so many, connections because I'm not there anymore. And I still see my friends, their posts coming up on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter or X. But not so many of them are so active.
How did
Like, it was.
how did I survive? I will survive. Hey, how did I don't. I just live life. My wife, in the past couple years, my wife brought to my attention. And I'm going to use some words that maybe might hurt my own feelings, and she doesn't intend to hurt my feelings. But there was a period of my life with my kids that I was not there for them 100%.
Mm.
That was because I was so focused on delivering content. And there's this one heartbreaking video. If I can find, I'll share with you. My son was holding my phone while I was live on Periscope, playing piano at Costco.
Mhm.
And my son accidentally turned the camera and it showed his face. And then my son went, "Oh no, oh no." He turned the camera around. And then he goes, "Daddy, Daddy, I messed up, Daddy. Daddy, I messed up." And I said, what are you talking about? "I showed my face, Daddy. I'm so sorry." When I watched that video, I literally cried because I'm like, I put this pressure on my kids to never show your face on camera. And for my little son to say, "Daddy, I'm so sorry. I messed up." I'm like, okay, we're going to reevaluate how we do this, right? We're going to change how we do this. So how did I survive? That's how, and we became pastors of a church. We opened a drug and alcohol rehab, and just great things happen. But now that I think they want to be connected again, I'm really into more long form and not investing so much time trying to come up with something that's going to get views or hits or likes.
That's a catch. Sorry, I have to interrupt you here,
Yeah, go
because
ahead.
that's a catch. You say, I don't want to spend that much time. Like, I want to have long conversations. Just go back and remember that you're spending the same amount of time,
True.
but it's now more meaningful because you have different perspective.
Yeah.
And it's expected to be a business, kind of,
And we did.
that-
We made our media company. We registered it. It's an LLC. We trademarked it, so it's Glow Sessions
Right.
LLC. So we are treating it as a business, but it's going to have
good.
a very. I don't know. At this point, I don't know what the future holds for it. I just know that having meaningful conversations, delivering content that helps change people's lives, that's the obvious.
Yeah.
And not doing something just to get views. Like, there's that temptation, right, to put out, well, not for me, but generally speaking, people want to, what can I do to produce the most viral sensation hit? Like, I don't have that. That's not what I'm looking for, right?
Yeah.
So
what do you want? Like, what is your goal? Maybe not goal, but like, what would you like people to inspire people for? Like, what is
well, you know what,
what's the purpose?
you know what I enjoy doing is I learn, I'm taking notes. So I'm not trying to be rude. If my eyes go down, it's not that I'm actually
Yeah,
taking
I-
notes. But I learn a lot doing these. I've had three clinical psychologists that I did a podcast with here. I've had a former Special Forces Marine police officer. I've had a reality TV show guy, Papa Bear Alaska. I had him as
Oh yes, I remember him.
yeah.
His reality TV show. What did you say?
It was like, I think it was 6 episodes, but it was like on a syndicated television, so it wasn't
I
like
have
on
no
the
idea about that.
yeah. They brought this camera crew. I don't know how long, but I mean, it must have been long enough, because 6 episodes, that's a lot I would think, for me.
Yeah.
So I think it was a whole summer that they were out there filming. It was about him, the missionary work that he did in Alaska. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
When was that?
I want to say 2017, maybe 2016. I forget what year it was.
Do you think he got exposure through social media, and then that's how he got connected to? Like, I'm just trying to.
I think so,
Probably that happened. Yeah.
because he really exploded on Periscope. Like, he had just so many features.
I remember him very well, and there are, some people who I can see today, like, they're recognized as keynote speakers, or
Yeah.
I would see their name this, and like, even I don't know, I remember once my friend shared some post like a few years back, and she mentioned this person that I know from Periscope. Like, her words were like, "Oh, I'm so happy that I was able to meet this person, this and that name. that person is such a good, keynote speaker and shared a lot of all. I was like, how did it happen? Like, I remember that person from Periscope. Like, I'm so happy to see that.
There was a periscoper by the name of Shailene Johnson. She was kind of successful before Periscope. She came up with a diet or a workout program, but she was very good on Periscope. And then even today, she even got more successful because of that exposure. And she did YouTube videos, but she does big major events like public speaking events. She shares a stage with people like Grant Cardone and various other business people. Yeah, so she's
nice. Yeah.
Who else?
Amanda Olander, she's probably the best example. You remember Amanda?
Oh yeah, the artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
like
right.
Now, when you see her page and her illustrations are everywhere. I mean, not everywhere, but they are out there living their life. And I remember she was one of probably first people I started following on Periscope. She was this small girl, just walking around, being very kind and nice and, well-behaved and funny and smart and doing her art. It's just mind-blowing. But actually, she was even featured at a time because of Periscope. So she really did use it well.
No, I can't speak for her specifically, but I do know that there were people that were independent contractors. They were getting paid per feature or per live stream. And if you remember back in the day where there were certain broadcasters, you're like, man, how do they always get so many views? So I can't say just because it was a private conversation, but one of the persons that did that a lot, who got a lot of high amount of views, he ended up disclosing to myself and one of our business partners at the time that he got paid an independent contractor fee from Periscope or Twitter to do certain types of broadcasts. And how you would know is that he had access to different features within the app that none of us had, but he would promote them.
I think I know who is the person you're talking about.
And hey, I think that's cool if you're that good, because he produced great content. He's amazing on YouTube, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just a high quality production value. I think he writes everything out really well because he's very professional. It's point to point to point. There's no awkward B-roll material. It's all just and it all started with Periscope, and so obviously they rewarded him with that. So yeah,
that's good. Yeah.
Well, I have obviously a ton of things we can talk about, but I also want to be sensitive to your time. How are you on time?
I'm okay.
You're okay. So can we talk about? I have it written down here. In the area of, it's kind of a package deal, right? I think with the mental health, the poverty issues we talked about earlier. I know we're kind of going back into that, but the mental health. Would you say it's a mental health crisis in Canada in terms of services, people not getting maybe medications? I know that can be a political topic, but the mental health issues in Canada.
I first of all, I am not expert, and this is just my opinion as someone who is very curious and like to ask questions and get answers and read a lot. I would say it's just maybe the opioid crisis getting new forms. And I have not been here so long, so I would not know how was it before. But I remember even when I moved to Vancouver, it was not so bad, I would say, as it is now. I mean, COVID changed a lot, apparently everywhere, and especially in that area. So if you're familiar with Vancouver, maybe you know, not people, a lot of people would know, but you have heard about downtown East Side.
Yeah.
That's the area where a lot of people, homeless people, drug addicts, and people who have different mental health issues live. And And I've heard a lot of stories, when I was doing my research about that, I've heard a lot of stories like, yes, there are a lot of nonprofits, a lot of programming helping those people, uh, big budgets, like daily budget for those nonprofits and programming is around $1 million. So there is a lot of money for support, but it's not enough. And when you so I don't know like if that's true or not, like if there is enough money or maybe there's not enough money, maybe we think it's a lot but actually it's not. But anyways, if you don't go there, what I can see is that, and this is just my impression of reading all different facts and researches and history of like what led to opioid crisis, first in America and then in Canada. So what I think it's this all liberal politics, actually, yeah, like resulted in this environment we live today. So when you think about what led, first of all, to opioid crisis and everything, would be like we would have to go back like probably 20 years or maybe even 30 years back. And like first overdose prevention site was opened in Vancouver 20 years ago. I don't know, like maybe that was even first in North America. I think they opened that one after a long legal battle with the government, and it was opened as a pilot program. And I think they actually recreated this program from maybe Switzerland or Portugal. I cannot remember, but it was 20 years ago. And if you think about the idea of overdose prevention centers and all different programming that support people living on the streets or with different addictions, like you would say, oh well, this is good, this is really helpful, this is meaningful, and this will support them and give some tools and resources for people who are struggling to it's like a getaway. But like maybe that was the idea 20 years ago, but I don't think it resulted in what they hoped that it would be or they planned. Like I don't know what the outcome they had in mind, but it's not going in the good direction, because now we have a complete opposite of like overdose prevention center was there to help people who are in risk of overdose, and yes, they saved a lot of lives, but actually, okay, what I want to say, I don't want to go too deep into this, but I think it was not done enough on prevention. So we are again doing the same thing, putting patches here and there. This is just like band-aid for this issue or that issue, but nothing is done, or not enough was done on prevention. So you don't have enough prevention programs, you don't have enough support programs. Like people who are in recovery have to turn either to very, very limited resources funded by the government, or their families have to pay high prices, like high amounts for recovery centers, and that's also very limited. So that's just one part of the problem. And we also have like different mental health issues that are arising from intergenerational trauma. That it is also connected to alcohol and drug abuse, but oh my God, it's so complex.
Yeah.
And I don't think we can think about one aspect of the story without thinking about everything that's involved there.
You say you're not an expert, but I think you have a great perspective because you're not from there. Because it's a I'm putting words in your mouth, but I believe it's a non-partial point of view, because you're not emotionally tied to the people, or even you're not a political person. At least I don't think you are. But like for me, and we talk about opioid crisis, and Dr. John, I think Dr. John is still in here, and he's actually he's a Canada resident, and he's a clinical psychologist who his bread and butter, and that's probably not the right word, so I apologize, Dr. John, but he really into the recovery and drug addiction space. So he deals a lot with opioid crisis, and we talked about that in Canada. And here in Oregon, man, it was bad because of the political approach to it. Let's just make everything legal. Let's not worry. Let's just give them Let's give them more drugs. So with the whole opioid crisis too, it's like it was a very strong political approach to it, and also, and I think Dr. John confirmed this. We're so quick to prescribe these medications rather than actually deal with the root issue.
Yeah.
You know?
Because it's easier and it's, you know, the cost is less. Like if you really want to heal one person, to go that deep, like you would have probably to involve like few experts to deal with different aspects of, you know, their trauma or addiction or whatever. Like it is one thing to deal about physical addiction, but then there, you know, you need someone to deal with emotional aspect of that, and that costs a lot of money and time. I don't know, like I don't see that happening. Like I mean, not that, but when I say that, I mean developing of some programs that would really be able to deal with all of this anytime soon, because also I believe it's very political, like, and that's the reason why all this, as I say, liberal ideas actually came to a very different results than what was planned at the beginning, because these are all good ideas, right? Like, why wouldn't we offer a clean supply to somebody who is living on the street and have no other resources? But then if you don't have the results that you would like to really have, and if you don't help that many people but you get funded still, you want your program to, you know, keep going and, you know, stay open. I don't know, I would say it is, I would still say it is a good thing to have everything, but maybe they would just need to change the approach to, you know, different aspects of support and programming.
So in your area, I heard you say the word liberal 2 or 3 times. What does it mean in a liberal sense in Canada? Because I've never been there. So when you say liberal, what does that entail?
Yeah. It's very strange because I don't know. It's just something
I don't either.
Feel like, oh, this is very liberal. It's democratic. It's again, I would say very different from Europe. But I don't think Europe is not liberal. I just think in US and Canada, it's more flexible, and because there's more money. And if you think about any human concept of, you know, any social issue that people are fighting for, unfortunately, everything comes down to money, power, and politics, right? So if there's no money, politics, or power, you cannot do much. But let's say this, you know, activists for, okay, so in short, what I want to say, I read a story about some political activists in one city in US. I don't want to say the name of the city, but one big city in US that is trying to fight this battle with opioid crisis and homelessness. And residents of the city, so the journalists did a very comprehensive research on what people feel and think on both sides, you know, and residents of that city express that they feel that activists, for liberal activists, for, you know, who were defending the rights of people who are living with mental health issues and drug addiction, just went too far by defending their right to choose if they want to be picked up from the street and get help from. I missed this comment. I think it was interesting, but opioids are the best choice. Well, I have no idea about that, Lee. I really don't know. But I remember that comment was like, they're just gone too far. So they're now defending the right of somebody who is not capable to, you know, have a reasonable thinking to decide that, you know, that person doesn't want to get help during the crisis. So how do we deal with this? That's what I think when I say, that's what I have in mind when I say liberal. So, and that's legit. Like those people, those activists who are defending that right, they have their like point of view, and it's legit if you think from that perspective. But like, how are we now here playing with someone's life? Like, who are we to decide?
Yeah.
Right?
You
It's
know,
very complex.
so the city of Portland, Oregon, I think the word they used politically is on both sides of the aisle, liberal or conservative. Even Dr. John said the same thing in Canada, is that they use cities like Portland to experiment. There's no other word for it. To experiment, let's just make everything available and let's not penalize them if they get caught with certain types of drugs or paraphernalia. Now, in city of
Did he
Portland,
mention Vancouver in that context?
huh?
Did he mention Vancouver in that context?
I think he did, but we kind of bounced back and forth because I think Portland went first with this experiment, and then Vancouver followed after. So it's like it was bad. Like people would be in the streets getting high in front of police officers, and the police couldn't do anything because it was legal.
Yeah.
And it was so crazy. Like that's not even liberal. That's like crazy as far away from the core issue as you could get from it. But
so what do you do about that? Like what is his perspective? Like I have to listen to that interview, and I would really like to.
I know that the new governor that got elected, Tina Kotek, I think they're trying to backpedal it. But I don't know how you backpedal from that. I really don't know. I don't know. How do you?
Well, that's the thing. That's what I mean when I say liberal, because like if you get a new political leadership that would, like to change something, they also get a pushback from different activists because, and I hate to say this, and definitely not everyone are in the same, but like I've seen a lot as a journalist. As San Francisco as well, right? And LA and Seattle. So I've seen a lot, and I know how many times I was so disappointed to see that people are actually doing that just to get funding. So they don't care. They don't really truly care about people they are fighting for. They maybe do to some extent, but a lot of times it's just for getting the funds coming in.
Yep.
And those people are very vocal. And how do you fight that? Like some very painful cuts have to be made probably in that kind of situation, so you can deal with.
I'm a firm believer that the majority of those initiatives, at least the people that are pushing them, I think they have good intentions. But I do also believe there's a small percentage of those in power that are evil.
Yeah.
That have evil intentions.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't know how you walk that back. I don't know how you walk. If you have a solution, let's write about it and put it out there somewhere. Because I don't
think there is any easy solution to that, unfortunately.
It is a generational issue. We talked about generational issues before, but that is something generation that's going to take time.
Yeah.
Because I might be wrong in saying this, but I don't think it's the government's job to fix the people. It's their job to provide and protect, but it's our job to rehabilitate ourselves or to create a new life or to create a better life. A previous guest I had.
But if you don't have resources, you cannot do that.
That's
First
true.
of all, when I spoke about prevention, I remember seeing one video. People who are living on downtown East Side were interviewed, and they were asked, "Okay, did you ever think about getting off drugs?" And I remember one female person saying, "No, I started when I was 12." She was in her 40s, and she said, and I quote, "I've never think about quitting because I was never told I have to do that. I was never told that this is not right or good for me."
Yeah, you did a documentary on one, I think. There was a guy, I can't remember which video it was, but he was speaking in English. I'll go look at it.
Yeah, it's about the downtown East Side.
Yeah.
He works there.
And the resources I agree with. My wife is, I don't know how many years now, 28 years clean, 20, 26. let's just say she's 26 years clean. 26 years clean from using crystal meth. She didn't really have resources. There's something in her that said, you know what, I don't want to live like this anymore.
Oh, yeah.
And now, of course, she did have support. Of course, she had support, but she had to make that decision. And when I met her, she was off already for a while. Yeah, she's smiling. She was sober for a while, but still, even through our relationship and marriage, there are still things that we still have to walk through because of that. And for people that are out there and they're struggling, let me just throw this out there before I forget. If anybody is struggling with any type of addiction, please reach out to me via DM. We have resources that can help in that area. But there's a choice that's at some point we're going to have to say, you know what, I'm done living like this. I need to go out there and go find it. The problem I have is when there's a political intervention or governmental intervention that keeps them there. That's what I have issue with.
Yeah.
Right? When they're bringing out vans, when they're bringing vans out in the street with needles, like, no.
So that would be harm reduction, right? And it's again good thing, right? Same as with overdose prevention sites. How can you say that's not a good thing? But then again, like, you cannot say that out loud. But even if you feel like, well, maybe they could do something better.
Now there are there's two things that I know that you cannot just stop 100%. You need to have medical intervention. That's heroin and lifetime alcoholism. Dr. John, that's his specialty. That's one of the things we talked about is someone that comes off of heroin. If you take them off of it, they can literally die because their body just cannot survive. It has to be in increments, right? With alcoholism, you have to have. I had a gentleman that for 40 years just alcohol, and he literally wanted to die just because of not having that. Every other drug, for the most part, and I'm not an expert, I'm just based on our counseling and doing a drug rehab and having conversations with Dr. John and other people, of course, but heroin, by far, you cannot. I mean, people have survived, so I don't want to say that you cannot, but you definitely would need some type of incremental letdown, if you will. Whereas the other types, my issue is this: just when the government gets involved in these cities and says, you know what, you can keep doing it, you won't go to jail, and I'm making it sound funny, but you won't go to jail, you won't get arrested. Just will allow you. It's not going to be a offense that will have you arrested. I have issue with that because there's other things as regular citizens we would get arrested for. If I go 60 miles over the speed limit, I will get arrested and put in jail. But
yes, but it's kind of like the attitude of like, oh, we cannot deal with this, and we're just, letting go fall through. What about people who are actually living with mental health issues?
Yeah,
not caused by using drugs, but just living with mental health issues. In Vancouver, there was a hospital. It was the biggest in BC, and I think it was the only one in BC that would deal with different mental health issues, from light mental health issues to schizophrenia, and maybe even something harder. And that was not just a hospital; it was a full complex of buildings that was built, I believe, in 1920 or something like that. I don't know the exact year, but by mid-50s, they made a decision to close the hospital. And they didn't do it just, overnight. The hospital was closed maybe late 90s or maybe even early, I don't know, maybe 21 or 2. I have that information in that video that you spoke about. Anyways, the point is that they actually just transferred people, I would use that word, from the hospital, people who were living in a hospital with mental health issues. They would just transport them to downtown east side or down or East Vancouver and let them live on the street, or some boarding houses, or I don't know what was the capacity, but and that was in 80s or 90s. So a lot of people were just left to live on their own, and they never lived on their own. So there are some nonprofits. I worked for a nonprofit organization that was open like almost 50 years ago to help people who were discharged from that hospital because they were not capable, to take their medicine every day, or just to deal with daily life, like to go and do groceries or whatever. Um, and I don't know how it is now because I didn't have any mental health issues, so I didn't have to turn out to seek help. But what I can see is that there's not a lot of support. So if you're living with a mental health issue and you're very prone, different like influences and like manipulations, like maybe you would easily go that path of drug addiction or alcoholism. You're basically on your own. I don't know what is the what would be the solution for that, but also like I think we're just letting people deal with their mental health issues, intergenerational trauma or whatever, and knowing that they have no capacity for that.
In Canada, what I learned was, so alcoholism is the number one. I even know the word, but and then marijuana is number two. And one of the things that Dr. John was telling me, that because of the legalization efforts all across North America to legalize marijuana, it's not the same marijuana that mom and dad had back 40 years ago. It's different. Today it's a lot more toxic. So a lot of these guys that are taking these type of prescription marijuana, it's different. I think psychosis is the word that he used. So there's a surge that's going to, he sees a trend when it comes to mental health. They're dealing with more cases in that respect. And so my question would be is, so there's a manual that psychologists have, I think it's called a DSM-5, and it's basically a list of all the diagnoses that they have. Mental health, I mean, it's going to go to DSM-6, I'm sure, in our lifetime, I'm sure. And I think the word that Dr. John used is that we're going to be overwhelmed. We're not going to have enough support for people that are in that space.
Yeah.
And I don't know how the hospitals, I know growing up, we always made jokes about, we used to call them the insane asylum. I don't know if that's that's probably not a politically correct word.
It's not, yeah, but yeah, it was back in time.
Now they shut down most of those, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of those is shut down in our lifetime.
I don't know. I know that one in BC was, and when they closed the hospital, the story that was like at the time in public was that they planned to open one hospital in each area of BC, so people would get help there or would be relocated there. That never happened.
Now, where you went in Kaneohe, when you went to the temple, when you rang the bell, about 10 minutes down the road from where you went, there's actually a mental health hospital, a mental, I don't know, what do you call those places? It's where they cater to people with mental health.
Yeah, mental health institution.
Yeah, institution, yes. There's one right there, close to where you went. And every month, somebody escapes from that hospital. Every month, somebody, it goes into the news. And one of the guys that escaped there had mental health issues. He actually was convicted of killing somebody many years ago. And he actually escaped that hospital. They found him in San Francisco.
How?
I don't know. He
I mean, how did person boarded the plane?
I have no idea. And this is, this is after the TSA, of course. This is after they, so I don't know, wow. but that mental health institution, they always have somebody escaping, so.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing we have to think about, but I don't know. Like, I don't think there is an easy solution for this, and I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. As you say, like, a little more and more people living with different kind of mental issues, like anxiety and whatnot. And I have, I don't have a lot of knowledge about other thing that's happening in US, and I don't see that in Canada yet. But it's like medicating kids. But I'm reading some stories about
Well, what type of medication? What would when you say
well, that would be like starting with melatonin to different kind of hormones for kids who are defined as spirited or high to deal with.
oh,
Back in Serbia, we would just call them, I don't know, probably spirited would be the best word, like kids who are too energetic, but not, I would not say bad behaving kids. Like, kids are just kids playing, or not being ready to go to sleep whenever mommy and daddy says go to sleep or whatever. But like, because I'm following a few groups on Facebook and reading like what parents are posting there. So when they ask for help, like the peers, like they're describing like different situations, where you would find just a spirited kid being spirited kid, like, my kid is throwing tantrums because like whenever we take iPad from her or him, I'm like, why are you giving iPad to your 3 years old or 4 years
my
old? Like,
God.
it's your fault. And then they seek help from psychologists in kindergarten or school, and then kids are getting melatonin or different kind of hormones or medication. So, and it's just a business model. It's like, I don't know, is it a new business model or maybe old business model?
Okay.
I'll
I'll tell you this. Parenting takes hard work,
I know.
right? And I think outside of the business model, I agree with that 100%. Parents today are of a different fabric than what I was raised in. If I was spirited or energetic and I threw a tantrum, what medication my dad gave me? This is the medication my dad would give me.
And then you would be traumatized kid.
No, I respected authority. But no,
I think because in US, and when I say US, I just say because like everything starts there, because like every new idea, because it's liberal, let's go back to liberal, to that word. I feel like now when I listen to you, I feel like, oh, actually it's like instant gratification. Parents who were raised as, like, I don't know, like having their needs fulfilled when they were kids, they don't know how to deal with whatever is frustrating for them now. So it's, again, we go back to instant gratification.
Mhm.
So they don't know better than to offer instant gratification to their kids. And
Yeah.
now they're dealing with kids who are throwing tantrums because of any, I don't know, like small things or whatever.
My son was throwing a tantrum for days, I think, about his playing with the iPad, or I forget what it was. Oh, the video games. So I come home one day. I think I was on a trip. I came home and my son gives me a really sad face. So I'm like, I already know. So my wife took away the video games for 3 months. 3 months they could not play video games. And it wasn't that they made a mistake. It wasn't about them making mistakes. It was about them being disrespectful. And so I ain't gonna lie, Irina, I told my wife, hey, that seems excessive and strong. But you know what? My boys are fine. They played outside. They got sunshine.
Yes.
So it wasn't abuse.
How old was he?
That was like 2 years, about a year ago. So he was like 10, 11, no, 9 or 10.
Okay, so I recently spoke to my friend from Serbia, and her kid was hooked on video games for a long time. And I remember, like, her son is now 23, and I know that kid since he was born. And I remember, being 5 or 6 years old, he was able to, download whatever video games and do like the things I would not be able to do on a computer. Anyways, he was hooked. And then they moved in a different neighborhood that was very close to their old neighborhood, very close, not so far. And he found friends, and he just stopped playing video games because he would go out and hang out with his friends. And he was maybe 18 years old at a time. And my friend was so surprised, like, what happened with this kid? Like, like he just found friends that he can hang out with. Yeah, I mean, there are different stories, but as you say, when we were kids, like, yeah, like we would get not disciplined. I would not say it was even like I didn't perceive anything like my parents having the authority. Like I didn't perceive that as like that's normal. Like kids need to have some boundaries. Like otherwise, it would be this crazy world led by kids who are not able to make a decision if they want to eat an egg or a salad or like whatever. Like they have, yeah. Okay, you know what I want to say. But what I also wanted to say about like video games and the like screen time and everything, there is like big movement like no screen time in the last couple of years, and I do get that, and I'm trying not to give my kid any screens. But he was a baby. He was maybe like 18 months old, and we were alone. Like I didn't have daycare at the time. My husband was working overtime like a lot, and I was alone with him like 24 hours, not 24, but like most of the hours during the day. And just once, I gave him to watch some, kids YouTube, some songs on YouTube, because I needed to clean our apartment. And I felt, oh my God, this is so easy. He, stare in that screen, and I can actually clean the floor. And then I realized, but like after taking that from him, he's getting hysterical.
Yeah.
It's so easy for everyone to get hooked on whatever we're doing on screens, and I decided no, like that's not going to happen. So I really hope like he will not get any like digital influence for some years now. He's 7 years old now, and they do use iPads in school for creating different projects, and he has his iPad, like my old iPad that I don't use anymore, but he has just one app, and he used that app for creating his books. That's it. He can go, he do Google search, but he doesn't know how to use it. He like his Google search is like he pressed the microphone icon and he say, let's say, a hamster, and then Google search gives him like hamster photos, and he used that for his book. That's it. And he started asking about video games because we have some family friends with older kids, and they play video games. And when we go to visit some friends, like he would play video games, but he knows that's not going to happen for some time.
You ever heard of Family Link?
No.
It's made by Google. So I can be in Japan, I can be in Serbia, I can be in Canada. My son will call me. I'll be anywhere in the world. He says, Dad, can you turn on my computer? I said, yeah, I'll turn it on for you. I'll go on my app, and I'll give him 30 minutes. I'll give him an hour. It doesn't matter, whatever. And I also can see what he's doing. I can see what YouTube videos he's watching.
I like that.
Yeah, it's called Family Link. It's a great resource for parents that want to control screen time for their kids. Yeah.
Thanks. I have a friend, and she's marketing, and I remember when her son was maybe 13, started using social media. Very, very, shy. He was very shy, so he would not even post a lot. But what he didn't know was that actually she had all his logins, and she had her, his login is on her phone and her apps, and she was able to. It's not maybe ethical to go through his DMs, and but she felt like she needed to just not control him. Like she would never tell him like, oh, you send this DM, but just to have some idea of what he is doing on social media.
Well,
And
it's scary though, because my son used to watch YouTube a lot, and we kind of had the same idea. Well, this is easy. Well, what I found was there are people, even on YouTube, that are grooming our children. They're putting out videos that have a kid perspective to them, to like cartoons. But I watched one of the history, and there's this guy who makes videos for children, and it's like a physics engine. So basically, you throw these objects off a cliff, and the kids
okay,
get to see what happens to these objects. And as a parent, you're like, "Oh wow, that's cool, physics." Well, what they don't tell you later on in the video, if you're not careful, you can choose what type of objects. So my son kept throwing humans off the cliff, and the humans' bodies would react to the physics,
oh wow,
and it would land on the bottom of the canyon. And I was like, "What are you watching?" And my son, he's innocent. He didn't, but it's showing kids what it looks like when you throw people off a cliff.
how do you even get that option on YouTube? Like you would have different like ending to the video.
Because
You,
no,
you
because
different.
nobody's flagging it. So the guys that I flagged this channel when I caught it, but if people keep putting out videos like this, and it's, let's say the video is 12 minutes, sometimes in the middle of the video you can click, hey, watch the next video, right? You can click to the,
Yeah.
my son would just click, and then there's different categories. It would
Yeah.
show him, and then
Oh.
sometimes they have games that you can download that are like, so if I'm a content creator on YouTube, I can, you can do hyperlinks, or hey, for more info, click this link, or buy this. And so some of these links would send him to the Google store to download these games where he can play around with what he just saw on YouTube.
Yeah.
So if you're not careful, man, my son was watching these murder, basically how to kill people. I'm like, son, what are you watching? And so that's when we started to limit his time and just monitor, because he's 11 years old, and it's, man, God forbid that I don't monitor that part of his life. Like, no, son, you can't watch people getting murdered. You don't
Well,
know.
that's the thing. Like we have to, like, you are here. We are here to protect them, to educate them, to monitor them, to do everything. Because, like, I had a training in neuroscience for parents, and I've learned that people are not emotionally capable of making good decisions for themselves until the age of 25.
Yeah.
25.
Yeah.
And legally, they are like, well, not just legally. I had this conversation with my friend yesterday, actually. So basically, children or young people are legally allowed to go to nightclubs. In US, it's I believe 20 at the age of 21. In Canada, is maybe 19 or something like that. But a lot of kids actually go and live on themselves, like when they turn 18. So at least like they go to college or university in different cities. So you have somebody living on their own, and legally that person is not recognized as being capable of, going to the nightclub.
But then the brain is not even fully developed yet. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, it's very strange.
Well, the other thing too is that when we talk about kids and children, is at least in the United States, some kids have legal rights outside of their parents already at 14.
Yeah.
And whether it's a physician or educational institution, they're not required to tell the parents, because that kid has legal rights technically as an adult to make their own life-changing decisions. And this is not getting political, but I know they're trying to stop it. But kids today, certain cities, they are allowed to have life-changing things done to their bodies without their parents' consent.
Yeah.
I think they use they call it it's not a nice word, but like mutilation of their like sex changes or whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's crazy that they allow that it's even legal for a physician to do that to a child outside of the parental consent.
Absolutely. Well, I understand the perspective of, again, I would say, activists, liberal activists that are, fighting for that agenda, because I'm absolutely sure there were many persons who suffered, living with a identity they were not able to choose for themselves. But then again, if like, and that's the battle between science and society, like in many different fields, not just in this one. So, and again, we go back to politics and money and power,
Yeah.
and like who has any, who has influence and who has any benefits from this, like um, how you come to that one point where everybody agrees on, like if we would really live by the agenda of like not letting young adults to make any big, at least, decisions by that age of 25, and apparently by the science, according to the science, they're able to make any decisions, like we would have to live with a lot of immature young adults
Yeah.
if we don't have them that freedom. But I don't know, it's very complex. I totally agree.
Well, that is a good point to the other side of what I said, right? Because so if we subscribe to science and science says 25, so
Yeah.
that means you can't buy alcohol, you can't get a operation on your body.
But then again, we go back to the history and we see like all famous, political or war leaders were like in their like the highest power when they were 27, 23, 29.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the society was very different at the time. Also, the lifespan was, they would probably, people would not live longer than probably 40 years at the time. So
Well, that's probably why they accomplish so much because they don't have much time. Yeah.
probably, yeah, yeah.
Well, I think we're about that landing stage. There's so much to catch up on, and I'm excited to see what your next chapter of life will be.
Thank you.
I will
Thank you.
I will say you inspired me to get better at the back end of things. I love doing lives, and but I want to get better at doing the like the YouTube quality. All my YouTube content is replays of live streams for the most part. I have like maybe 10 or 12 videos that are production.
Because you have to repurpose the material. It's like you have only certain amount of hours,
Yeah.
right, in a day. But if you need any I don't know, professional advice about filming, editing, or repurposing material, I'm here.
I do appreciate the fact that you're I guess the word is writing. I want to get good at the writing part of it. I'm good at telling stories. I've always been, when it comes to, if I click the record button right now, I will do 77 takes before I even get one good one.
That's normal.
Yeah, I'm not good at pre-recorded. But you know what it is, Irina? I think part of it is that I don't follow my script enough, or I don't know it good enough before I click record. So I'm going to get better at that part, is writing it out and understanding it before I click the record button.
But it's normal to do it a few times. Like it really depends. Sometimes we are tired, not focused, not in the mood. Like nobody talks about that. Like we have days when we don't want to do this. Like I just want to have nice, relaxing day today. I don't want to put my brain on and like talk about whatever. I can love this job, and I would maybe very involved in the topic, but sometimes you're just like I cannot do this. Like that's normal.
A lot of my
But
video production or audio is done after midnight. So sometimes it is hard for me because we have family and life. So a lot of it's done after the kids go to bed. So it's sometimes it's challenging. And then I have neighbors too. Well, I have one neighbor, but I try not to get too loud and try to soundproof everything. But I agree. Sometimes you don't want to do it. You don't want to do it.
It's hard. It's very, very hard. Like people don't realize how hard this job is, because like you see just the final product on the screen, but that's just a fraction of what was needed to be done in terms of preparation and filming and editing and everything.
Well, Irina, I want to just thank you very much. I'm extremely grateful for the time that you gave. And before we do rapid fire, are there anything off the top of your mind you want to share before we do rapid fire?
No, I just want to say that I'm very grateful, and I want to thank you for this opportunity because we haven't connected in a while. And it always brings good vibes and good emotions, when I think about that, Periscope time and my friends, because I value that really, and I keep those memories and people very close. And even if maybe we would not be in touch, but as you say, like, you would easily get connected with someone, and you just go back to that flow. And it's very important to know that you still have those connections.
Yeah.
I think that's priceless. So thank you for that. Thank you for and thank you for doing whatever you do. Like, you're doing a lot, and I think you're influencing a lot of people. So, and it's hard. I know how hard it is, and thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you. All right, let's go. Number one, why did you do this podcast or live stream today?
Oh, because I love to talk. No, because it was you. I just as I said, like, because it was you who invited me, and I appreciate what you do, and I really enjoyed, meaningful conversation. We mentioned this term, like, meaningful, quite a times in this conversation. I think it's very important. So that's why I knew it will be meaningful. It will not be just to fill this time.
Number two, money or logistics not an issue. Where do you take your family for 30 days? On a vacation.
30 days.
On a vacation.
Oh, so many places. Oh, right now, this moment, I would say Hawaii, because I want them to see that heaven on earth. Otherwise, like Hawaii and Spain and Italy.
Okay, that's doable. Number three, steak or seafood?
Seafood.
Number four, you get an offer from CNN or Fox News to be their news anchor. Who are you going to go with?
BBC.
You can't have to
Sorry.
be CNN or Fox.
Probably CNN then, but that would be very, very hard choice. If I have to, only if I really, really have to.
Number five, when you are ready to retire from working physically or creatively speaking, where do you reside? Serbia or Canada?
Montenegro.
Where is Montenegro?
Montenegro is just next to Serbia. It's where I spend every summer growing up. I have a summer home there.
Okay.
And it's where my soul is.
Number six, how do you say Hawai? How do you say that word?
Hvala?
Hawai. How do you pronounce it?
H-A?
Wai. How do you pronounce it? Say it again.
In Serbia. In Serbia?
In our native language, how do you say it?
Hawaii?
You actually said it right. So it's actually Hawaii. So
Hawaii.
in Hawaiian language, we say our W's are V. So you actually said it right the first time, Hawaii. Yeah.
Hawaii.
Yep.
That's how we say it in Serbian. We say Hawaii.
Yeah. Number seven.
What is the other?
So in Hawaiian, V, our W's are V's. In our vowels, the A is not A, it's A.
Okay, yeah.
The E is not E, it's A.
Oh, okay.
The I is not I, the I is E. And the O is not O, it's O. And then the U is not U, it's U.
Oh.
So
Well, that sounds Serbian.
it's similar. A lot of those different languages outside of the United States is similar. So okay, number 7. Who cooks in your home, you or the mister or the husband?
We both equally, like, we share that because it just depends. Sometimes I stay in the office late and then he do it. Sometimes I do it. Sometimes nobody do it. Do that. So it's equal. It's equal. I would say he's better in preparing food than I am.
Number 8. You are the newly elected president of Canada. Let's just pretend that's true. You're elected as a president of Canada. What do you do in your first 100 days as president of Canada?
Where to start from? I don't know. Like everything that we just discussed about, I try to change something, right? Like if I would be really, really hard, hardcore, I would say first I would discuss what does the land back means to indigenous peoples. And I know there is discussion between, even indigenous peoples themselves, like what does it mean, land back? Yeah, I would probably open that discussion. Thank you, Tala. I would open that discussion. I would open discussion about real discussion about opioid crisis and health crisis and mental health crisis and everything, and rise, the cost of living, and probably whatever, I would do everything that any normal, reasonable Canadian would do. But, yeah.
Speaking of Canadians, Irina, does that comment scare you that that's a Canadian that says blow it up and start over? And he's also a clinical psychologist, Dr. John. What the heck are you saying?
Dr. John. Nice to meet you, Dr. John. Blow it up and start over. Well, we cannot blow it up because there are some good things in this society. Like every society has, good and bad sides, right? But yeah, it would be hard. I think I would have to probably, find some experts in different areas and just, make a council, ask them, like, how do we do this?
If I was president of the United States, my first 100 days, what I would do, I would spend the first 50 days, like what you said, finding the best leaders.
Yeah.
And then the next 20 days, I would come up with solutions. And then the last 10 days, my math is bad, whatever the math is, the last week, implement.
When do you go on vacation?
I would never. And, I'm not getting political, but in the last debate with Trump and Biden, Trump said something that really caught my attention. He said that, and I don't know if it's just politics or whatever, but he said something that really got my attention. He said that, and let's just pretend it's not Trump saying it, or who cares who it is. But he says, I didn't even want to run again, but I saw the way that you're running the country, and now I gotta get back in office and run this country again. And I found it funny to hear that statement. I've never heard of any political candidate say something like that. And you take the names out of the picture. It makes sense. If I was a wealthy person, I would not want to become president of any country. I just want to enjoy life with my kids, my grandkids. And it really put into perspective where we are politically and governmentally, not just politically, but governmentally as well.
Yeah, I know. But also it's, if, what does it mean being a wealthy person? Like, if you are a wealthy person, that came from somewhere. If it's not like generational wealth, it came from your business or, your expertise in something. And also that means that you're very used to work and to influence people, change their lives in any way. So I don't think a lot of people would be really happy just enjoying their time, because you only need certain amount of time to get rest.
Yeah.
And your kids are also, getting older, and they grow up, they go do their thing. So everybody probably just come to one point in time when they are bored. Like, okay, so what's next? What can I do to maybe fix this society? How can I help? How can I contribute? I mean, that's at least my perspective. Like, I don't know. I would probably do the same as you, but
Agreed. Number
maybe with
9.
some size.
Okay, here we go. Number 9. Who has better food? Serbia or Canada?
Canada definitely, but it's not Canadian food. It's just the variety of all different food from around the world. And I know people would say, like Serbian people would probably say, "Oh yeah, but in Serbia you have like more organic veggies and fruits and meat and everything," which was true before, but not anymore. I mean, even my father, who is growing his own garden, and we have like fruits and veggies there. I can see that he needs to use some chemicals to fight, different whatever there is, bacteria, or I don't know what it is even how to call it, but it's not that organic anymore. So I would say definitely Canada because of my favorite Italian food and like all different.
Last question, and then we'll land the plane. Is I ask the same question of every guest for number 10 and number 1. They're always the same questions for the first and last. The last question is, what is your desire for the next generation after you've come and gone, after you've, your life is over? What is your desire for the next generation?
Oh my God, in what term?
Whatever terms are first in the top of mind, whatever is right there in your mind.
But like first thing I could probably say is to leave them a healthy planet. We have to think about environment, and that's true. But I think the most important thing is to raise new generations to be mentally healthy and prepared for all different life challenges, and to be confident, but really confident and ready and able to receive criticism, and to not perceive it as attack on their mental health or personality, but as something healthy that would that actually helps them grow and improve. So other than leaving, healthy society and healthy planet, which I don't think will be doable, at least, raising children, or young adults that are able to recognize and realize the moment of the society where we are living in, and start building new and better future for everyone. I think that's not too much.
Well, you're doing a great job. I did catch some of your social media with your family, and I think that's where I'm at too, is raising our kids to become better than us, right? To do things better than us, and to do it with excellence, to do things just well, to do them far greater than I could ever do it. So once again, I want to say thank you very much. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do my closing, my fancy video. If you want to just hang out in the green room, and then I'll just say my final goodbyes. So
thank you so much. I absolutely enjoyed this, and thanks to everyone who were with us today.
Thank you. Family, if you enjoyed this, do me a favor, go ahead and reshare this, repost this, whatever social media outlet you're watching us live on. And those of you that are my Spotify listeners and Apple Podcasts, thank you so much for being supportive through all the episodes. Irina Djordjic, if I said it right, is one of my longtime friends that I met through social media, I was at least 9 years ago, on this app called Periscope, and I'm glad that we were able to connect. This is the first time we've had a lengthy conversation, just me and her, and you guys as well. So if you enjoyed this, definitely, I'm going to post all the links. I know she doesn't really promote her socials, but there are some things in the future. I'm sure she's going to make some new content, and if you speak her native language, I think it would mean a lot to her for you to consume. She's got great documentaries, and I actually learned a lot from 2 of them that I watched last night. It very emotionally invigorating, especially the one about First Nations people. And of course, with the recent uncovering of the genocide of those 215 children. So I'll leave it at that, family. Thank you for your time. Above everything else, thank you for just liking, resharing all the comments that are in the other socials. I'm going to go back and read the comments. Thank you for being here. On behalf of myself, Irina, her family, my family, thank you for hanging out with us. As I always say, love you guys. God bless you guys. Ahui ho, aloha, and mahalo. Yes, sir. Chihu.
Woke up every day like this. It's a brand new day.